Yes, people, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. Hope you're all happy and healthy, doing the things you love, as always. We've got a panel show for you this evening as we talk about Aston Villa, the preview to the game. I was offered a ticket today. I said, no, thank you, which is unusual for me, not because of the traffic, just because I just don't feel like it. After seeing poor Johnny's experience, 7.5 hours there, 7 hours back to watch 85 minutes of abject, horrendous football. And we've got to talk about what's going on, right? We're going to talk about the game, what happened on Thursday. We've got to talk about how you lot in the comments section and the people that I've got in the background here, lovely little eclectic panel for you, how they feel about Ange. Is he the guy? Is he not the guy? Is it the right time to say, even if he's not the guy, if he's still the guy before the guy, is it time to find the new guy already? And then obviously Daniel Levy. I want to get everyone's take on Levy because the last time I had a panel show, there wasn't the furore and there wasn't the animosity. There's always some, but there wasn't the same level in the moderates that has now become more left-leaning if left is Levy out. And why? And is it fair? Is it reasonable? You heard my take, so I'm going to shut up for most of this. I hope. You know me. I try my best. And then find out what these guys think about. Then we're going to be talking about, obviously, Villa. And what is next? How do we move forward as a football club? Parking the Levy, parking the kind of the ownership transition, assuming that he stays. What is it that you want to see? Do you want to see us go youth? Do you want to see us go, big and established? Do you want to see a blend? How do we do it? Do we need a coach that is more malleable and amenable to that kind of vibe? We're going to find out. So I want you guys to be smashing the likes, smashing the subscribes. I'll be dropping the links of the guests in the show that do have channels as we go through. Make sure you get over to them. But keep the comments coming. If you throw up any awesome questions, then we'll bring them in as well. I'll be starring those. But make sure you're dialed in because we've got, I think it's 6 or 7 people that are going to be coming in and out of the show today. One of them is just dropped off because he's got to go and pick up his wife who's just run an ultra marathon, which is madness. I said, make her run faster next time because we got a show to do, more important things. But we've got a few other people that are here right now. And there's some names and faces that you'll be familiar with. And I hope you're welcoming into the show. We've got Adrian Stroker. We have Blaine Devlin. Great to see you. Great to see you, Adrian. We got Drewzilla. And we got Jose Eltel Cockerell. And so we got Johnny from Spurs fan John. John, who used to have a channel. Now he's moved into another channel. He's coming back once his wife's done having a shower or something. So we're going to welcome in. How you doing, guys? How's Adrian? How are you, mate? First and foremost, are you good, buddy?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm sort of my Spurs nervous system is holding up surprisingly well. I think
Spurs system.
The Spurs system, yeah, brilliant.
I've heard about Spursitis. I haven't heard about the Spurs system before. That's very clever. Nice.
I mean, my worst experience actually was when we got relegated in 76, 77. So I'm pretty immune, although it pains me the way with the lack of progress and all the injuries. But things can only get better. When you're at the bottom, you can only go sideways or up. You know what I mean?
Just quickly, Adrian, before I come across to Blaine, what's the name of the channel? Obviously, I know the name of the channel, but plug the channel so I can get everyone to make sure they come and find you if they're listening.
Spurs Diehards TTID is
TTID. There you go, mate. Get over to Spurs Diehards. I'll be dropping the link in a little while, guys. And thank you, Adrian, for being a part of the show. It's been a while since I've done a panel show. It's usually just me, or occasionally Bugsy, and occasionally just me and Johnny. And then obviously you've got the Devil's Advocate. But we got Blaine. He's coming back. I think this is his second or third appearance on the channel. Blaine, how you doing, mate? It's great to see you. Love the setup. Love the shirt in the background.
I'm all good. Sean, you're back. I'm back. We're all fucking back.
Nice, mate. Great to see you. How's things? How you feeling right now? I know you tend to lean towards everything's kind of falling apart and some people's problems, but are you hanging in there, mate? Are you still optimistic generally about this season?
Just about, but it's where do you turn next? I don't get excited about watching us anymore. It's a feeling of dread, but hey, just my opinion.
But listen, if we can find a way to get a job done tomorrow, then we still got 2 competitions to fight for. It's not all doom and gloom. And when you look at the performances of Jamie Donnelly today, man of the match against Manchester City, and Josh Keeley at the back, and you think about the youth that we're pulling in from left and right around Europe, from left and right around the Premier League and other teams, and what we already have as a hub in that in that ecosystem that started with Paratici a few years ago. And thank God Daniel Levy listened to him and allowed him to kind of create and craft something. I believe that Tottenham are very quietly putting together an incredible youth-centric model that maybe the likes of Matisse Tell might become a part of. We'll see what happens there. That one's a bit of a question mark and a grey zone for me, but we'll talk about that as well. But I think that in a couple of years, I always say this, couple of years, tomorrow, I love you tomorrow, you're only a couple of years away, but we're not going to be far off from having one of the best young teams in the business. And I think that that's something to be excited about and to hang your hat on. Drew, I'll come down to you, mate. How the devil are you, buddy? It's great to see you, mate. Great to see you.
Thanks, mate. Good to see you. Glad you're back for the time being. Hopefully for the foreseeable, and we're done with shenanigans. So wish you all the best. Thank you for having me on. I've been I've already rattled somebody's cage on the WhatsApp this morning. I'm a delusional Tottenham fan, and I've been filling my head with stats from this season because hoping to come with some facts today, Sean.
Yeah.
So looking forward to getting into it, mate. And
looking forward to
everybody on the panel. Blaine, good to see you. Adrian, nice one. Tell, good to see you from last night. And here we go.
Great to see you, mate. Tell, mate. It's been a while as well since you last came on the show, mate. It's always a pleasure to have you, mate. It's always a wonderful thing to get your insights, mate. How's things over there in Tell Cockerell's world? It's a bit of a rhyming slang, there, isn't
it? I'm fine. Good evening to everyone on the panel. Good evening to everyone in the chat. Good evening to you, Sean, and thank you very much for having me on today. It's going to be an interesting conversation. I'm quite dull because for me, I can switch off after a match because I've got other things to do. So I can just switch off. Win or lose, I can always switch off. So I don't get as irate and as jumpy and as many other people may do. And that doesn't make me any less of a fan. It's just that with life, I just don't move at that pace where I have to lose my rag every time I lose a game. So, looking forward to the questions that you've got for us all so you can get an insight of where we all stand and what we all feel about the club at the moment. And also, I'd say to the chat, while we're talking, whatever Sean's asking us, get involved. Tell us how you feel with the questions that are being asked by Sean.
100%, mate. 100%. Love that, Jose. Love that, mate. Well, look, let's start right there, Adrian. As I said, you guys backstage, we're going to kind of slice this up with the obvious. I mean, they're not particularly fantastic questions that have taken me more than about 3 seconds to think up. But essentially, we're going to go through what happened against Aston Villa, the game specifically. Then we're going to pivot to, like I said, your thoughts on Ange, your thoughts on the ownership, because everything's pivoted that direction. And, whilst I'll stand true, I'm not going to be... you guys don't need to hear my takes too much more on this particular topic, so I'm going to find out what the four of you think and the five when John arrives, and then we're going to pivot to how we look next. What do you want going forward, and obviously, and then the Villa preview towards the end of the show. Adrian, let's start with the game, mate. Absolutely appalling, wasn't it? Just a no show from the boys. What do you put that down to, mate?
I think fear. I think they went there. I think they were scarred from the 6-3 loss at the Lane. And Liverpool have been in such good form since then. I know we got a 1-0 lead to bring into this game, but I just think the players, there's no belief. And the biggest problem is, which I've been rattling on about quite a bit this season, I said, we all know, don't we, from playing football, that if you don't win the midfield battle, you're never going to win a game of football. Unlikely, unless you're playing long ball and you get lucky. And so that midfield needs to link with the defence and the attack. Now, we can slate the attackers off as well, because the midfield and the attackers are the ones who need the slating for this game, this result. Mm-hmm. But if you're not getting fed the balls, or, you're not getting, you can blame the strikers. I really blame the midfield. I really do. For most of our rules this season, the complete lack of consistency in there.
21 unnecessary, unforced possessions lost in the first 60 minutes before Pape Sarr got taken off. 21 against Liverpool. Right, you have to be at your very best to have a chance against Liverpool at Anfield in a cup game, and to give away the ball 21 times, just shocking. Did Ange get the team right though, Adrian? Did he pick the right midfield three?
The thing is, we don't know the situation of who's more gassed than anyone else, do we? So be fair. I looked at that team. That team was all right. If I was gone for a bit solid, that makes sense. We wait at Liverpool. We know they're the best team in the country. Maybe may turn out to be the best team in Europe as well. And so you're thinking, yeah, it's okay. But it's when it's starting, you see the way like we just couldn't get hold of the ball. It was like wave after wave after wave. And we held on to what, the 33rd minute or something like that. Then once it's gone in, you're thinking, well, once you're pushed back all the time, it's very hard to get any, sort of attacking football going. You had Decky try to drag us forward upfield, bit like that. But Son and, Richalison goes off injured, my God. And then like Tell comes on. I'm not going to give any blame to Tell. My stick is really reserved for the midfield.
Yeah. Just quickly before I come across to Blaine, I saw last word on Spurs after the show, and I was listening to. I saw clips of it the next day actually, and I was listening to the man Jason. I don't know his last name, and he put up an argument saying the performance is unacceptable, but when you're like challenging the idea that Ange could have done something structurally different in the second half, how do you square the circle that without Richarlison and without Solanke, you can't really go long, right? You don't have a target man. Without Brennan Johnson on the bench, you don't really have that kind of injection of pace that might be able to sit on the shoulder if Liverpool wanted to continue in that kind of in that same vein where they were just pressing and pushing players forward. Most of the midfield, you can make the argument that Berghvall was a better option than one of the other three, but there wasn't really a catalyst without the likes of Maddison or whatever. There was no catalyst to be able to create, get on the ball and draw fouls, do something different in that regard. And everyone else that was on the bench was either a kid that was untested or a player that looked and felt quite a lot like players that were already on the pitch. And with the absence of maybe the argument that, well, one was tired, one was fresh, like a Mikey Moore's not going to be too much different to like a Matisse Tell or like a Sonny. So was there any real option for any structural change other than what he did, which was put Jed Spence at right wing back, right wing, whatever, and Porro? Was there any other option that Ange really did? He have any other tricks up his sleeve that he could really pivot to, apart from hoping that the team just picked up their game in the second half?
Could have put Decky in the middle.
He did that, didn't he? Later, he went with Jed Spence moving out to the right, but that was about it, right?
Yeah, he could have started. That's about it. There wasn't really much he can do.
Yeah. Blaine, what's your take on the game, mate?
I back up what Adrian's saying. I think I had a look at actually the average position of our team the whole game. We were so compact, so tight, that even if we did gain possession back, you've no outlet. I mean, bloody hell, Decky was trying to keep it in the corner with 5 around him at one point. So you've got...
won a corner as well, didn't he? He won a corner in that moment.
Did. I still don't know how he did, but...
Yeah.
Anyway, to me, it's just, you go to Liverpool, you're intimidated, but nobody on that pitch seemed fired up, ready for it. You've seen the players in the tunnel before we kicked off. They were scared. Every single one looked nervous. You're going into a semi-final, you've got a 1-0 lead, at least put on a good performance. That's all I asked for. We didn't do it. So I was deeply, deeply let down by that.
Do you think that there was any other options for did Ange get the team selection right? Was there a different way that you would have gone had you had the same predicaments that he faced in the team build-up and the lineup and the injuries and everything else?
I'd have maybe risked it and played Moore from the start and put Kulu in the 10. That's pretty much it.
You would have rested who from the start, sorry?
I would have started Kulu in the 10 and started
Kulu
Moore.
In the 10. Right, yeah, okay. Interesting. Yeah.
That's about it. I don't think you can throw Tell in from the very beginning. So I think him coming on, obviously forced injury to Richarlison, but I think I'm not Ange's biggest fan, as you know, as I think everybody here knows. I actually think he got his tactics right for the first 20, 25 minutes. Soak up the pressure, absorb what Liverpool are going to throw at you, and then try to grow into the game. But
any justification? I see a lot of people on... Oh, sorry, my mic's just gone. Any justification? I see a lot of people on Twitter that are still banging on about Virgil van Dijk getting away with one. He's getting away with one for the 5th time this season. He didn't get the red that he should have got potentially against the Arsenal player. Didn't get one against Richarlison. Didn't get one against. I forget the names. There was 5 incidents that I saw the compilation. They all looked suspect, but he didn't get a yellow card for any of them. On the specifics of the Richarlison incident in the first 2 minutes, brave referee to kind of would it have to be a very brave referee to give that one, or is that just a little bit of the Liverpool edge that they always seem to get?
Well, they do get it, don't they? Do you remember when Skip got the boot in the head at Liverpool?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And nothing happened, and that was a red card. I mean, like that was a booking yesterday. It wasn't a sending off, but I think it was definitely a booking.
Yeah,
they get away.
Not agree. You're not going to get a decision like that at Anfield 2 minutes into the game either. Let's be honest.
I was expecting a penalty. I really was, because it's Liverpool.
Yeah. I thought that penalty. I'm still pissed off. I haven't seen that, because I think that second replay, that second angle of the penalty. I think when you saw it for like one full speed replay. I didn't see it, and I didn't watch the post match analysis, but I'm still convinced, and no one's going to argue against me unless they can absolutely categorically show it to me, that he didn't get a nick on that ball with his glove before he took the player out. I think that penalty was harsh, but you know what? Maybe it doesn't really make a difference anyway. Drew, over to you, my man. How frustrating was it? Is there any excuse for, put aside the team selection, part of the role of a manager, especially one who is known for having the very salesman-like ability to put the right words in the right order to find some sort of motivation? Something went wrong as they walked out to that game, because from the first minute until the 90th, it looked like a training game between the first team and the kids, right?
Yeah, I was, and I want to preface this by first of all saying that I am Ange in, just because at this point in time I don't know that there's, like, right this second, I don't know that there's anything better, and we're getting players back, and I feel like, based on what I've seen previously, I genuinely think that he's better than Ryan Mason and somebody else for the remainder of the season. So we'll just get that out of the way. My problem sometimes is that I do find that he, and I've spoken about this before, has a tendency to maybe contradict himself, or he'll say one thing and do another, which, and you know, fair enough. But it's going to rub people the wrong way. And the one thing that I'm having a little bit of trouble reconciling is you go with essentially three central midfielders, or at least defense. In my mind, two of the three are more defensively minded. And yet you say that you didn't set the team up to play like that. I mean, I know you're kind of hamstrung at the moment, if you'll pardon the pun. I know we don't have a lot in terms of the reserve, and I keep on likening it to, you know, Pro Evolution, the Master League, or a FIFA career mode, when you've just gassed all your players and their energy bars are down to like 65, 70%. And just for love nor money, you cannot get these players back up to 100. So I understand that we have a problem, but just tell me that it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to say, do you know what? I figured that we actually needed to be a bit more pragmatic. You know, if that's the way that you were going to go, then that's the way you were going to go. But for me, I would have, given that Richalison, you know, we didn't know Richalison wasn't available until he got injured and wasn't available for the rest. You know, he at least started the match. And I think him going off was an issue because he was the main focal point. I think it was basically like, try and get it up to him, try and hold it up, try and work it off him, and we'll see how it goes from there. And for 15, 20, 25 minutes, it kind of worked. But if it had been me, I would have liked to have seen, just put Tell on from the beginning. He's an unknown commodity. He's obviously got energy to burn. I would have liked to have seen us go maybe a little bit more toe-to-toe with them. I would have put more on the left. I would have put Tell on the right. I would have said, just go at them for a minute, because I would have rather that and lost 3 or 4-0 than be, you know, the team that we were on the night, just kind of almost not resigned to the fact that we were going to lose. But I think there was an element of, we've got no gas in the tank. Like, our press disappeared 4 or 5 weeks ago. We've got no gas in the tank. So if we do happen to go down, I don't know that we've got it in the legs to push back and go after it again. So I think there was that sort of mentality. And I think if you'd have had more and Tell up front just being busy, I think it would have given them a bit more to question in the first half. And I think then you go into the second half with a little bit more to kind of play for. But I just thought, you know, I think everybody, and on top of that, I think players just kind of shit themselves. I mean, it's Anfield, it's away. A couple of these players have never played there before. It's Kinsky's first, his debut at Anfield. Gray's debut at Anfield in the Spurs jerseys. Danzo's first, game in the Premier League at Anfield.
How did you feel about those performers? Just quickly, Drew. Kinsky, you're right. First, well, not this first big match. He was thrown into the Liverpool game.
First time at Anfield, right?
First time at Anfield, right? Massive occasion. I struggle with this notion that, for what it's worth, that Anfield is just this ridiculous atmosphere all the time. I think that they all get together, they all sing their song before the game starts. They sit down, and then it's silence until they score. And then once they score, they all get reassured and they start to find their voice. But that's why I feel like I'm on board the tactic of settling in and sort of just riding out the initial wave. I said before the game, just don't go down too early. If you just concede a first goal in the first 10 minutes, it's game over. But if you can make it to 35, 40, ideally half time at 0-0, then you'll silence the crowd and they'll get itchy, and that's when you can build from. But we obviously, under the wave of the pressure, we ended up capitulating. But I do want to hear your thoughts, mate. Just before, sort of next question, I guess, for you, mate, is regarding those new boys. I thought Danzo was one of the better players on the pitch that night. Yep. I thought Kinsky, despite conceding 4 goals, you'd imagine he had a mare, but I don't think he did. I think the penalty. I still don't think the penalty was a penalty. I stand by that until I see evidence to the contrary. Yep. And I thought he put in some world-class saves. So, and as far as Matisse Tell, everyone's saying this guy. I see on Twitter, everyone's saying, Tell wants out. We should want out as well. He looks terrible and he doesn't want to be here. And I thought it was actually remarkable confidence / arrogance of the guy to be in the first 30 seconds of being in a Tottenham shirt on the pitch, to be berating Captain Sonny for not pushing up. I think rightly so. Someone needs to step up and tell Sonny, don't rest on your bloody laurels, man. I know you're tired. I get it. But look at the difference between him and Mo Salah. I think you said this before, Drew, on the channel, right? That they're the same age. One of them is built like a machine and has an engine that can go for years, and the other one is too timid to jump in for a header.
Yeah, I mean, the Son Salah thing. I spoke about this yesterday, and even though I think there's only about 2,000 minutes between them in terms of playing, Son started earlier. He was worth 4.5 million and going to Hamburg before Salah was worth 200,000 and going to El Afik or wherever it was he started out. They've had slightly different trajectories. Son's played 30 more international games, maybe 30 or 40.
Is this where the stats bombs start?
Yeah,
I love it.
Absolutely, yeah, loving it. I mean, because I feel like they play a part, right? And even when you come down to genetics, Egyptian, if you look at Salah and Son side by side, Son's got 2-3 inches on him, about 10 kilograms. He's thicker. He carries more weight generally, so I think his body takes longer to recover. Salah's far more slight, far more fleet of foot. And where, the likes of Liverpool, all right, they've played Salah. Salah's only needed to play when Liverpool have needed him to play for the most part. Whereas, unfortunately, we've been in a situation where we've had to flog our best players. We're bringing them on in the last 20 minutes of Carabao Cup games to try and get over the line, whereas Liverpool have blown out their opposition by 3 or 4 goals, and Salah's sat on the bench by 55, 60 minutes. So I get. When
you said there's 2,000 minutes between them, are you saying that over their career or
over their entire career? Yeah, there's only about 2.
Who's got the most?
I think Salah. I think it's Salah's 47 to Sonny. No, Sonny's 47,000 minutes to Salah's 45 or something like that.
Okay.
But even the 30 or 40 more games, international games, even if you say half of those, Sonny's having to fly 14 hours just to get to South Korea and then 14 hours back. Salah's flying 3.5, 4 to get to Egypt. Now, that might be boring to some people, but to me, that has an impact and that has an effect on the longevity of a player. He's just been slightly overused, and they're different people. And other than the comparison of them both being, wingers, and they're both being 32, I just, you know, you can pick and choose what you want in terms of the stats for players, but at the end of the day, they're just two different players getting to the end of their careers, and it just, it kind of is what it is. And I mean, to Tell's point, last night he was mentioning that he thinks Sonny's kind of dropped off a cliff, and I think, well, not dropped off a cliff, but he's been in decline the last 2 or 3 seasons. And while I get that, if you look at the stats, he's actually had a bit of a bounce since recovering from that injury. And it's only this season that, even though the numbers aren't great, they're not awful. But I don't know. I've kind of veered off topic a little bit. But just going back to the game, you know, it was disappointing to go out like that. But I'm also very aware at the moment, and I've been preaching this for weeks, the only thing that's different about this team at the moment is that the players have got more minutes in their legs, and they still haven't been able to have been rotated to the likes of which we should have rotated them. So while I always want the team to win, and while I'm deluded and I thought we were going to go and do it, my heart told me that. My head said, come on, dude. We're basically just another 90 minutes more tired, another 90 minutes more depleted. We've dropped another player. Somebody else went off at halftime. And the fact that we've gotten to a point where we haven't been able to truly train, and we've been 10 players down. So the players we haven't been able to train against anything that resembles an athletic, you know, somebody that's equal to them or above them. Like, even if Solanke and Richarlison were fit, who were they training against? Who were the defenders that they were going up against in training to get better? They weren't. They haven't been able to really do anything. So I'm not expecting much from this team at the moment. I'm kind of in sort of consolidation mode. Let's get as far up the league as we can, which I don't think is going to be far. And let's really try and win a cup, because we can't afford to go down to less games again next year. You know, that's kind of it with me.
Welcome to the show, mate. Sorry I missed you there, buddy. I hung you in the background. Eltel Cockerell, mate. 27 minutes in. First chance to say hello. You know how it works with big panels. Mate, lovely to see you. Same question, but I'll tell you what, I'll give you the first crack as well at merging this into the Ange conversation. Terrible display. Not for the first time. I'll tell you, I put it in the comment section earlier. My dad basically called me a donut earlier on the phone, saying that, you know, we're, dare I say it, you know, all wank, no cum. And essentially that Ange is a salesman at best. He's been found out. I mean, was Liverpool another demonstration? Because this isn't the first time. And injuries are an explanation for why you're seeing what we're seeing now, Eltel. But Jose, but the reality is that this isn't something that's new, right? It's something we saw against Crystal Palace, we saw against Ipswich, we saw against second half against Brighton. Just this season, you can go to last season. There's plenty of examples in that season as well, that even with a relatively fuller, at least if not full strength team, that we're still coming up short on many metrics that the manager is responsible for. And you know, my dad is someone as I would imagine 75% of the fan base now are thinking he isn't the guy anymore. And the first 10 games of his tenure flattered to deceive. And since then, it's been a fairly consistent sample size of ineptitude. What's your take?
I would say, well, for me, I've said all along, and for a while now, there's something, everyone needs to take a portion of the blame at the club. It's not just one area you can blame it on. I think there's a fair few areas that can be blamed on. With the manager, I'm going to say that the manager picks a side and the players go out and perform. Yes, we've had injuries, but even with the injuries, what I will say is that it's obvious that he has little or no trust in certain players, because we could have rotated a lot earlier in the season. It just meant that you had to rotate with players that, like Spence, who's come into the side really late. Reguilón stayed with the club. I expected to go by the winter transfer window. He stayed. Reguilón is a natural left back. He could have used Reguilón more. You didn't have to burn Udogie. You didn't have to burn Porro. You could have bought Spence. You could have bought Reguilón in for games. Maybe not Europe, because they weren't registered. But for the other games, it made sense. You could have brought them in. There must be a lack of trust with the players.
And is that a demonstrate, just quickly on that, just before you move on to the next point, is that a demonstrate, is that another kind of cross, or like in the con column, that he doesn't trust them, but with the benefit of hindsight, Jed Spencer's been an absolute revelation.
Yeah.
And therefore you can sit there and say, well, is his eye for value within the squad not good enough, or is there other things at play? Maybe the same reason that you could maybe extrapolate to someone like James Maddison, why he isn't getting the minutes, is because there's clearly some problem between the two, and that you could align to Ange Postecoglou cutting his nose to spite his face.
Possibly, but then if I go on and start looking further down, we lost our 2 centre-halves very early on, right? So we've been without them for a long time. Then you've got Dragusin that's come in and Davis. We then lost Davis for a while. So then we shoehorned Archie Gray into that position. We had Dorrington sitting on that bench for weeks and weeks and weeks before he's gone out on loan. He's not doing badly at Aberdeen, playing first team football. We were never going to call Ashley Phillips back. We knew we couldn't have Vuskovic. Okay, we brought Danso back now. But before the transfer window opened, there was an opportunity to maybe give Dorrington a chance. So he hasn't trusted Dorrington either. Then when you look at the midfield, and you look at the midfield that played, some of our midfielders have been injured or suspended throughout the season up until now. And quite probably our midfield has been nowhere near where it should be. Like if you're looking for a 6 out of 10, you ain't getting that from our midfield. It looks like our midfielders, it doesn't matter what permutation of 3 you choose, it looks like they're ships passing in the night. They've never met each other before when they get on a pitch. I think to myself, do they actually train together? Because they don't appear to when they get on the pitch. And then you've got these youngsters, some of the youngsters that you've seen come on, and you think to yourself, yeah, there's been no trust in giving them an opportunity. I mean, that's a hell of a lot of youngsters, and I'll admit it's a hell of a lot of youngsters, and it's not the norm. But we've got to look at our squad, and our squad is predominantly young. And then I look at the forward line, and I think to myself, Solanke's a pure miss for us. Got Richalison in there now, who's meant to be his.
He's gone now as well.
Well, but with that, he's gone when he doesn't play, because when he does play, no, in all honesty, when he does play, when we played against Brentford and we won 2-0 at the weekend, and even to a certain respect on Thursday night against Liverpool, you play the ball up to Richarlison to try and relieve pressure for the team and stuff like that. The ball don't stick. The ball bounces off him. The ball doesn't stick. He doesn't relieve the pressure for us, you know. And at the end of the day, if you've got something like that going on, then pick someone that's going to help the team, or change what you're doing, because if the player hasn't got it, you can play a certain system. You know, Solanke's got it because he can hold the ball up. But if the player ain't going to play that way, then you need to change the way you play, I'm afraid. You can't keep playing the same way with someone that can't play the way you want them or doesn't fit the way you want them to play. So at the end of the day, we've got loads of players that have been off form, have not played, have not turned up in lots and lots of games. But then we've got a manager that continuously picks them and doesn't give others a chance. And that's become apparent. I look now at Jed Spence on the eye test, because that's how we all do it. And I look at Jed Spence and I think to myself, he's better than Porro. He's better than Udogie. He's the best fullback we've got in the club playing in that position. He doesn't get ruffled. He doesn't often mess up and get things wrong. You know, he doesn't not often get left by his player, like the person he's meant to be marking. And I think to myself, you know, had we had Spence in earlier, then one we may.
Can I come in on that just really quickly, because I genuinely think that this is just a stick that Ange gets beaten with the Spence should have come in quicker thing, because he came back from Italy, he got integrated back into the squad, he was training with them, he was on the bench for the first 4 games, he got a couple of minutes, then he got a groin injury. Then he has to recover from the groin injury. He was out for over a month. Then he comes back in, and about as quickly as he could be integrated into the squad when fully fit, he was integrated into the squad when fully fit. And Ange hasn't looked back since, and neither has Spence. So I don't know where this idea that he just didn't play Spence has come from. And also with the Dorrington thing, when he got off the bench in Southampton and made his debut, up until that point this season, he'd had 270 minutes of game time over 4 games. Are we honestly going to sit here as a panel of 6 and the chat and turn around and say, as an 18-year-old who's come back from a really, really bad injury and played 270 minutes over 4 games, we're going to push him into the deep end because we've got an injury crisis? Come on.
270 minutes for who?
Dorrington. People were saying when Dorrington made his appearance, he said, well, I think he was basically for the under-21s. It wasn't even first-team football. He was coming back from an injury and just been worked in.
Yeah, bad injury last year for the under-21s.
He had a knee, an ACL. I subscribe to the Dorrington. I don't have a problem with Dorrington not playing. None of us have seen anything from the guy at first team football to know whether he's good enough. So I think you're right, Drew, in that you're bashing the you just any stick will do, which I think is a common theme with Tottenham fans around many of the people that are. No,
but the point I'm trying to make is that if players ain't performing, right, then you change your players around, right. And what I'm saying is he's not changed the players around. There's players there that he could have changed, and he's not changed them around. That's the point I'm trying to make. With Spence hasn't been injured for 5 months. The season's been going for 5 months. He hasn't been injured for the majority of that 5 months. If you look at the availability of Spence and then look at the amount of times he sat on that bench and didn't get first team starts when Porro was on his knees and Udogie pre-injury was on his knees, Spence wasn't getting them opportunities. He was on the bench. And this is what I'm trying to say.
But there's also... sorry, go on.
What I question with Dorrington is, why did you add him into the squad in the first place? Because like when fans were crying out to bring Ashley Phillips back, and I'm going, no. And people have got different opinions, that's fine. But why wouldn't you take him back? I said, because we know when these other centre-backs are fit, Dorrington and Phillips would be left on the bench for the rest of the season. That's not good for their development. We should ride the storm, which is what Ange is trying to do and tweak it. And those players should be out developing. Because he's a good player, Dorrington. I think he's better on the ball than Phillips, but Vuskovic is better than a pair of them, in my opinion. But that's another story.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, we're going to come across to I don't know how long you were in the background there for, Johnny Boy. I'm sorry, mate. I don't know. Were you there for a while? Your wife make you home again?
She literally got home. Right, there's your food. There's your coffee. Go and have your shower. I'm off to the garage.
Well, it's great to see you guys. Great to see you, John. And Bob, before I bring John in here, here's his link, guys. Lads, it's Tottenham. I've also been dropping the links of Spurs Diehard, Spurs Diehard's TTID, and also El Tel Coquerel. I don't think Blaine and Drew have got challenged yet. They're going to get around to it at some point, no doubt. John, I mean, unless you've got something new to say about regarding actually Thursday night, I think we're all kind of basically in agreement that it's an absolute shambles. Let's kind of seamlessly pivot into Ange Postecoglou and whether or not, or how you feel about him, how you feel about whether, you know, if you are still on board, him hanging around, is that purely based on the fact that there's there's no alternative at the moment? Is it because you actually back the man? Do you think he's the right guy to take us through to the end of the season? Is Ryan Mason, if he's the most likely stand-in, do you want to see him? Go where you want with it. But essentially the question is your stance on Ange right now, and and I think I saw a question just quickly. I think I did from Dermatron. Good to see you, Dermatron. Saying if we lose tomorrow, will Levy swing the axe? So you can incorporate that into your answer as well, my man.
To answer that first, no, he won't. I think he's got until the Europa League games. If we get knocked out of the Europa League, possibly. But I think no one wants Ryan Mason again or Matt Wells to be in charge. And given what our recent recruitment of managers has been like, apart from going back to when we took Mourinho on within 24 hours of Poch leaving, it's been horrendous. So I suspect, unless we have a similar run to the one we've just had, where we lost all those games and we go out of the cups, and I think there's a very good chance we are going to go out tomorrow. If we while we're still in the Europa League, I think he's safe. But I think it's also down to the manner of the performances. If we get, we were playing the best team in the world on Thursday. Let's not forget that, who had a week to prepare. Well, an extra day to prepare. They've got Plymouth tomorrow, so they'll probably be able to change. So they went full strength pretty much, apart from Trent being out. And their right back, who came in for him, is probably a better defender and was one of the best players for Liverpool on the night. So I was asked in the week, well, I think Adam put it in the group chat in the week, what are our chances of winning, of progressing? And I said 10%. What I didn't expect was that performance. And I know you've covered it, so I won't go into that anymore.
Oh, if you want it, if you have something,
no,
yeah. I mean,
I mean, the midfield was Bentancur and Bissouma does great things, and then makes a huge mistake that leads to a goal. He's done it so many times. He did it at Arsenal. He did it at Man City in the 3-3 last season. He's done, there's probably loads we can come up between us. And he frustrates me because he's got the ability, but it's mentality with him. He switches off. He plays sloppy, lax passes, or just doesn't track his runner, things like that. Sarr,
would you tell him in the summer if you could get like 15 million?
Yeah, he's got a year left in his contract. Get rid of him. And then there's a choice over Bentancur, who's also got a year left in his contract. I've always said I'd keep one or the other. After last night, after Thursday, apparently Ali Gold's telling us he's in the leadership group now. Well, it's a bit worrying because wasn't he going down the tunnel while Berghvall had to go and drag him back to go and see the fans?
How bad is that?
How bad is that? That's alarm bells to me. And
I heard the same thing with Mikey Moore. Apparently, Mikey Moore had to do the same thing with was it Sonny? No, it can't be Sonny. Was it Bissouma? There was another kid that had to remind a senior player to get over there and say sorry to 6,000 people.
Does that remind you?
A 15-hour round trip,
Yeah, does that sort of takes you back to when Poch came in and it was the young players against the old players, wasn't it? Kane and Mason were almost against the Kabuls and everyone. And it does seem like the young players, obviously they've come through the ranks. I know Berghvall hasn't, but they've bought into it. You can tell the young players have got this real group collective going on. And they, and somebody said it earlier because I took the dog for a quick walk while I was still waiting and I was listening. But, I was screaming for Moore to take Son off. 3-0 down, get him off, rest him because he's shattered as well and he has not been the player. But one of the things I don't understand, Son is 2-footed. How many goals has he scored over the years? Cutting in from the right on his left foot, cutting from the left on his right foot. Why does he never play on the right wing? He scored that goal against Chelsea a few years ago when he was playing up front with Kane, wasn't he? The one at Wembley, he ran down the right wing and left Jorginho on his arse and put it in the bottom corner. Why not put Moore on the left where he's favours and try Sonny on the right? I sort of get why he put Spence out there because he wanted some pace. But you could have put Porro on the right wing because his crossing is very good.
That's a head scratcher for me. I said that in the post-match thing. I was like, Johnny and I spent most of the last 6 months saying it'd be lovely to see Spence play at right back and Pedro Porro push forward a little bit. Johnny's a massive advocate for it. I'm less so. I don't think Porro has the kind of pace, the acceleration, the step over skill set to do that stuff. I think he's better just a deep crosser. But ultimately, I was really shocked to see the first version of that two playing on the same side to be inverted, and by I mean inverted, I mean literally one of them playing. Yeah, and but I actually thought Jed Spence did really well. I thought he was a breath of fresh air on that right hand side, far better than Kulusevski was in the first half. I think Dejan Kulusevski's performances this season, John, have been so good and so consistent relative to everybody else comparatively that now he escapes any criticism. That if you're having a crack at him, it's how can you have a crack at him and not everyone else? I'm like, well, the two things can be true at the same time. You can absolutely chastise everybody else when you need to, but if Decky puts in a shift that is subpar for his own standards that he has set, just like Sonny, you should be able to call it out without getting the mud thrown in your direction. And I thought that Decky was shocking against Liverpool.
Yeah, he was very poor. He couldn't hold the ball up. He kept running down blind alleys. It was a bit of the old Lucas Moura, wasn't he? His head down, trying the ball, not seeing three players coming towards him. And I mean, all over the park, we were too slow to move the ball. They did a really good job on cutting down the passing avenues from the centre backs, playing it into midfield or playing to the front man. I mean, I thought Tell did do something quite clever because he knew he couldn't hold off Van Dijk at the back. So every time the ball was coming forward, he was running towards our own goal to get the ball, lay it off quickly so he wasn't challenged. And that's just a little bit of clever thinking. And also, I don't know if you noticed it, a couple of times he was like ushering the rest of the team forward to try and press.
Yeah,
so he was really trying.
Yeah, he didn't do a lot 30 seconds into his debut.
yeah. He didn't do a lot with the ball, but there were some nice signs with that. So where am I with Ange? I'm still, if we bumble along to the end of the season, I think get rid in the summer. Unless there's an immediate obvious replacement, I wouldn't get rid of him currently. He has been hamstrung by the injuries. He hasn't helped himself at all. And I agree with the comments. And I get what you're saying about Spencer being injured. You know, he played 1 minute against Man City in the month he was sitting on the bench before he played against Southampton. But it did seem like he wasn't getting even 10 minutes here or 10 minutes there. Will Lancashire another one? We're playing Sonny up front and not giving Will a chance. Now, he came off the bench for West Brom today, I see. And just ever since he got sent off in Galatasaray, it seemed that Ange didn't trust him. Brandon Austin's the interesting one for me. He's clearly jumped ahead of Fraser Forster as the third choice keeper. But would you, I'll put this to you guys in the chat, given Kinsky seems to have dropped, would it be worth giving Austin a go tomorrow? Throw to you, Sean, start off.
No.
Well, yeah, don't worry about me. I'm here to pose questions and listen, I'll chime in. I can't shut up, so I'll chime in when I need to. But
personally,
I'll bring in Danny, mate. Good to see you, Danny. How you doing, mate? The question is essentially where you at. Yeah, I think we all are, mate. Trying to. That's why I'm drinking. I was supposed to be on dry February because I failed dry January, but dry February is 3 days shorter. But I lasted about 35 minutes.
Sean, I wish I could have a drink. Honestly, I think it'd drive me even more insane if I was having a drink right now. But you know, just to answer your question, John, for me, I don't understand why Austin hasn't been given more of a chance, because when I've seen him, he looks a lot more all round, a lot more complete than what Kinsky's looked like. And Kinsky, the one thing that worries me about what I've seen with him, he's a young keeper, but he's a bit reckless when it comes to catching the ball sometimes. Like he just kind of either doesn't catch it or he doesn't. He's hesitant. There
was two of those moments, wasn't there? In that game. Yeah.
The most worrying thing for me is when he makes a save, he parries it back into the players, like into the most dangerous area. Yeah. And I've seen him do that quite a few times, where he's parried it to the side, and you're like, if you're going to do it properly, not like right back into the danger zone. So, and when I've seen Austin play in a few games that we've seen, I personally think he's looked far more complete. He's a bit older, so he's a bit more. I mean, he hasn't had a lot of experience, but I just don't understand why he hasn't been given a chance. And I would like to see him given a chance ahead of Kinsky, to be honest. But that's just my opinion.
Danny, do you think because of his kicking?
What's that?
Do you think he's left out because he's kicking? I mean, the others are more sweeper keepers, aren't they? Kinsky and Vicario.
You're probably right. It's probably because he's quite good with his feet. But even so, I still think that Austin's not bad. Like I think he's a good all-round keeper from what I've seen. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of him, but yeah, I don't know what you guys think.
On the Kinsky for Austin take there from John. Anyone else want to see Austin come in tomorrow?
I wouldn't mind, being that, you know, there's no absolute guarantee that Vicario's 100%. So let's just say worst case scenario, I think
Ange said there's no returnsies. Kind of like my most recent purchase from Zara. No returnsies.
Oh, you can say OnlyFans then for a minute.
Yeah, right. Well, just because with the European games, beginning of March. Yeah. You know, Kinsky's not in the European squad, so we're all putting our cards on Vicario being fit by then. And if he's not fit by then, you would like to think that Austin's going to get at least a couple of games to warm up, and he's not just going to be thrown in the deep end. So I think it's a good shout, Danny. I think it's, I wouldn't mind seeing that, to be honest. And think Kinsky as well. Like, I mean, you go from the 30-foot view to the 300-foot view, and you realise that Kinsky's only been here for 5 minutes. He's had 4 or 5 games. And although, you know, he's had a couple of moments where I think to myself, honestly, I feel like you could have got your hand on that boy. But, he's only been here for 5 minutes, and he's 21 years old. And I think for the most part, he's done really well. But yeah, good shout, Dan. I think, and big up. I think Austin in goal tomorrow will be all right.
Just a quick round of the houses. I do want to just get everyone's take, because we've been going 50 minutes and we've only got into one question so far. So let's keep the answers a little bit shorter, if you don't mind, boys. Take as much time as you want, but within reason, if you know what I'm saying. Ange, we've got John's take. I think we got El's. I'm not sure we got El's take, but let's come back to Adrian. Ange, where do go? If not him, then who? Are you Ange into the end of the season? Are you Ange out if we lose
I'm,
tomorrow? Are you
I've
Ange
always
out
been
anyway?
Ange into the end of the season. I mean, last season he got us 5th, didn't he? And when you look at them first 10 games, 8 wins, 2 draws, still a record. And then you had the VDV injury, then you had the Maddison injury, then Matty Cash did Bentancur, right? Then you had Bissouma had 3 suspensions. Romero had 1 suspension. Players went away on international duty. We didn't have the horrendous injury list, but he got us 5th. I mean, the guy's not clueless. He's been doing this for nearly 30 years, you know. But I get the angst from the fan base. I understand that. But to me, I would like to see him actually have a chance. You know, we'll see if it happens, if he's here next year or not, come the summer. See what he does when he's got a reasonably fit squad. You're always going to get some injuries during the season, but to lose your 2 main centre-backs and your first choice goalkeeper, you know what I mean? I mean, like, most teams are going to struggle with that. And I'm also like, there's an old saying, hang on to nerves for fear of something worse. Right?
The only thing I would say on that, is that for me, I'm not Ange in or out. I really don't care what happens to Ange. I think majority of fans now are probably Ange out just because of, I think what we've seen is the trajectory has just gone downhill. Like we actually haven't improved. We've got worse. And even if you look at the beginning of the season, when we did have our players and they were available, we still weren't consistent. We still hadn't won 2 games in a row. So we were up and down. We were winning, losing. It was just a terrible streak. And then when injuries started to come in, it was just lost, draw. It was kind of like that. And it was just so. And I think that kind of started even towards the back end of last season. So if you look at the last 18 months, right, it's been a downfall, to be honest with you, quite a big downfall. And personally, I think something needs to change. And I don't know. For me, I don't think any manager is going to make a difference. I do think maybe a different manager might be able to take us into a slightly better position in the league. But I still think there's so much work at Spurs to do. It's not just that Ange, he's made mistakes and stuff like this. But I just think I think the level of players. I mean, at the start of the season, right? I thought we were going to finish mid-table. When I didn't really follow the transfer window all summer until right at the end, right? And I just saw what we had signed, and we hadn't signed enough. Like, I think everyone was clear to say we hadn't signed enough. So for me, with Ange, I just think that it's probably inevitable he's going to get sacked. I personally don't think he's going to get sacked until the end of the season, if it is then. But look, it's one of those 50-50. I honestly think there's a chance that he's going to stay beyond the summer. Personally, I think there's a reason why.
Only if there's a long-term plan to get in a Pochettino, right? Who's not going to be able to be drawn away from America until 2026. So,
do you know what, Sean? I can't even.
What's this guy? What's this guy up here think? Because he's a definite Ange outer. So, and he has
very much for a minute. I'll tell you for why, Drew. Right? You look at this compared to last season. Believe it or not, we've actually have 5% less injuries than last season, guys. I know it doesn't seem it, but the stats don't lie, right?
There you go.
You got competition there, mate. You got competition for the stats box.
Apparently so.
It's down to the number of players that have been out that's the difference, right? So it's playing minutes versus number of players that have been out. We've had more out, but we've had less minutes of injuries. Right. But for me, I haven't seen enough from Ange in 18 months to justify how our players are kicking on. Show me, of the players who have been here, who have been at the club for 5, 6, 7 seasons, what is he getting out of them? Very, very little. Sarr hasn't improved. To me, Kulu stayed about the same. Son's gone downhill. To me, he's not a coach. He's a manager. And if you look at our results throughout the season, we haven't been losing by big margins with, exception of Liverpool's 6-3. It's the in-game management to get us over the line. Get a point instead of losing the game. It's little differences like that just to me is not quite at the level we need. But I agree. I think, unfortunately, in my instance, he's going to get until the end of the season. I'd have him out now, but
who would you have it? Do you think that when you look around, right? That I always say, like, it's the same in the financial markets. Like, if you've invested in tech over the last 2 years and you've seen the tech stocks do this. There's a phrase that's banded around called TINA. It's a TINA market, right? There's no alternative. So, there's a reason why you still buy into stocks that are up 300% because the environment suggests that there's just nowhere else to put your money where you're going to get a decent return. And I think it's kind of that Tottenham environment for me with regards to the managerial search, Blaine. I just feel like, you know, it's going to cost money talks. It does talk, right? And we're going to move on to Daniel Levy in a minute. I'm sure everyone's going to tell me I'm a complete fraud and a bozo and a donut for thinking the way I do. I can't wait to hear it. Bring it on. But I still think that money does talk. Now, when you look around the, you know, and for me, Iraola, Blaine, is like good manager, gives you Poch vibes, good at developing youth, taking a team with relatively small revenue streams and making the most of what he's got. He was the inheritance, or he was the inheritor of a, or the inheritee, I don't know what the phrase would be, of a decent progressive momentum that the previous guy left him. But he's also an unknown entity, and I've said this 1,000 times, right? When you're knocking on the door, it's easy to go from 16th to 8th. It's very difficult to go from 7th to 3rd, 2nd, 1st, because you're knocking on that incredibly heavy door, that kind of steel-framed Fort Knox door that is the top 4, and actually to go on and win something. You saw the golfing class on Thursday night between Liverpool and Tottenham, better than us in every position and on the bench in every spot. Even with a full-strength team, I would argue that Liverpool are better than us, arguably, in 90% of positions. So that the trophy gap and the top 4 golf, it doesn't matter who the manager is, it's very difficult to achieve. Iraola, Silva from Fulham, etc., all those guys that are in the Premier League, I still see all of those as a risk. The manager that I would absolutely wet myself if we could find a way to do it, and there's no chance it happening, and I don't think even money would be the catalyst here. The caveat, like the incentive that you need, would be Eddie Howe. I think Eddie Howe would be incredible as a Tottenham manager. I think he has the plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. He's got the shithousery. He knows exactly how to manage the game. He's got everything that we don't have in Ange Postecoglou. But even if you were to turn around and give him Conte money, 14 million quid a year, which is 4 times more than he earns currently at Newcastle, is he really going to leave Newcastle to come to Tottenham? I would say fat chance. Like, unless he is a mercenary, and he's not. He doesn't come across that way at all. Obviously, I don't know him as a person, so I'm speculating. But, like, where do you go, Blaine? I know you and so many other Tottenham fans want Ange out now if you had your way. But if you want him out now, when you factor in the market, when you factor in the difficulty in pricing and convincing anyone to come and work with Levy, to come and work with this Tottenham team that at the moment it looks like a sinking ship. It's not. It's far from it, but it looks like it's a team on its knees. Then... and you factor in the reality of the situation that is most of the other teams around us that are better than us this season have managers that have never proven themselves at the next level. Where the fuck do you go to find the solution other than Ryan Mason? And Daniel Levy, for what, last thing I'll say quickly, it's the longest question ever up there, is Daniel Levy, as much as I give him credit for many things, one of the things I absolutely think he's a donut for is his inability to plan ahead, right? He's, apart from, as John alluded to earlier, apart from sacking Poch and having Mourinho the next day, we went 5 months before we got Nuno. We went 4 months before we found Postecoglou. And over that time, Tottenham's, like, the value of Tottenham, the draw of Tottenham has gone downhill. So I don't give any credit to Daniel Levy in the ability to have a plan B ready to go right now. So if you do sack him tomorrow after the game, you're going to see Ryan Mason in charge or his buddy. And I think that's fucking shit. And also, sorry, last thing. Someone put a comment in a minute ago that said, where is his number 2? All the big teams have a good number 2. Who the fuck is Tottenham Hotspur's number 2?
Matty Wells. Matty Wells.
Yeah, Matty Wells.
Who the fuck is he?
You've got, this is the thing with the coach.
Jones' grandson.
Just on the coaching thing, and then I'd like Nagelsmann or Ancelotti, but I mean, like, and I'll explain it. I mean, just on the coaching thing, I mean, like, he's got 6 coaches, so he tasks them. Prior to him coming to this club, did you ever watch any of the videos of Ange coaching? Any of you watch those videos? No, you can still go and see them on YouTube. Yeah, I mean, you got Matty Wells and you got Ryan Mason, ex-Spurs players. Then you've got Nick Montgomery and Serge Raimundo, right? Who we got from Australia. It's set out there, and they ran the Scottish under-21s and they got the sack at Hibernian, probably no money. Then you got Milo Jedinik, who we got from Villa, and then you got Rob Birch, who's the goalkeeping coach. There's the 6. But under the coaches, what I don't get with Levy is, where's your brain? You have got no football brain whatsoever. If you look at the successful, popular managers Spurs have had. I mean, you can go back to Nicholson, even going back to Arthur right before that. But if you go from Nicholson to Birkinshaw, right, and you move forward to a Venables or a Joel, right, and you move forward to a Poch, you know, and Redknapp, right? What were all these coaches good at? They were very good tactically. They were good tactically. They had tactical nous. They were good. And they were popular for the style of football they played as well, attractive attacking football. And then we go and get people that don't suit Spurs' DNA, you know, to dare is to do, not to dare is to bore under Mourinho and I didn't want them. And I said to everyone, this before.
Have you seen Conte's track record? There was a fantastic article, a brilliant article from the Independent that talked about. It's all very well getting back on board that, rolling out the Conte clip. His team, he said this guy, 15, 20 years, this manager, this club, all that stuff. Have you seen
that was really good.
The disaster class of the manager?
He does a good one.
Thanks so much. I've been practicing it. Although earlier on I was using the exact same accent for Mikel Arteta. A completely different country. But the Conte ones, I'll handle that. I'll put that in my pocket. But the disaster that Conte's ambitions, demands, and requirements, otherwise he'll fucking call it out as he sees it. The shit show of all of the clubs that he left, when he gets to look in the rearview mirror and see Arezzo go bankrupt, Juventus, like more fraudulent like cases than a crypto scam, like more like it's like every single team that he has left with, and Napoli, another one, every single team in Chelsea as well, every single team that he has left has been delved into financial bankruptcy or financial impropriety to get out of the hole in which his demands left them. Like, it's incredible.
You say that,
though. One important thing there, that's right, because even Mourinho leaves train wrecks. It always ends badly. When Ange's ever left a previous club where it's not been in the Premier League, he's always left that club in a better position.
There's a big problem though with those two managers. I didn't obviously want Mourinho. I didn't mind Conte, but the problem is that these managers are managers who are win now managers. You get them in when you want to win now, and you back them in that way, and they will win you something. Antonio Conte is proving it again. And Napoli have made money by selling some of their players, and yet they're still going to win the league this year. So we can't say that they're not proven managers, because they are. The problem is that the philosophy of the board and the ambition in this club, they're not win now. They don't want win now managers. So all it was, they tried to bring in these managers. If we wanted to be a win now team, what we should have done is what if Daniel Levy had big balls, right? What he should have done was when we finished the league, when we lost to Leicester, that time we lost to Leicester,
2017,
the Premier League title, yeah. The season after that, that's when you go and bring in a Conte and a Mourinho, and you go and get one or two players, and you go and win the league.
Well, we got to the Champions League final though.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that if you want to go and win a title, you go when you've got one of the best teams in Europe. That's when you go and give them a win now manager.
Poch was peak then. That 2017 season, moving into the next season, and the next season it all fell apart in the league, but we managed to squeak through in the Champions League, right? But I always maintain that was the worst thing that could have happened to Tottenham, getting to the Champions League final. It set massively unrealistic expectations, and this I say it all the time: psychological norm. Go and read some books on psychology if you're interested in this stuff. But it's a psychological norm that those that lean negative have the path to correctness, because most people in life set very unrealistic expectations of people and things that they have absolutely no control over. And Tottenham fans are exhibit fucking A. Blaine, I wanted to come back to you, mate, because I did ask that 4-minute question. And I never got the actual answer. I even forget what the fucking question was now. If not Ange, then who? Is what the question was. If not Ange, then who?
In the summer, Nagelsmann or Areola. But you ain't getting neither of them in now. You're not getting him.
You want him gone now, right? So if not Ange, then who?
You have to either look at an interim or give it to Mason.
It will only be.
You ain't getting in a good manager between now and the end of the season. It just ain't going to happen, right? And you're saying about unrealistic expectations. I'm not going to set the expectation that we would get Areola priced away or Eddie.
Well, you have to have 18 months before Poch is realistically available. Would you take Poch next summer And ergo, by that proxy, you have 18 months. Would you give somebody an 18-month, like, see what you can do on a 2-year contract, like what he gave to Conte, but give it to someone until Poch is done with the USA gig?
The thing is, you say that, Sean, as if it's realistic. Poch is not.
Sorry, Dan. I'll come back to you for the replay. I just want to get Blaine because Blaine said he's Ange. I want to get that kind of on the nail. What he would like to see right now.
It's a good question because I would love Poch back in a heartbeat. I think, see, with the youth that we're bringing through, that is exactly Poch's scene.
Yeah, he's the guy after
the trouble you have is who's going to be attracted by a 2-year project where you're basically a caretaker. You know,
someone like a Claudio Ranieri. Someone like
not a name I would go for. Not a name I'd go for. If you're going to bring in somebody like that as a caretaker, you're probably looking at a Terzic.
Or maybe him. Maybe him.
He's out of work.
Can I pose an Iraola question? Right, let's see. Just go back in time. Let's do a hypothetical. Right, yeah, we'll right. Spurs are looking for a manager, and there's 2 options. Let's say this is the pre-Postecoglou, and Bournemouth is pre-Iraola, and there's an option there. Do you go for the guy that's had 4 bottom half finishes with Real Valladolid? Or do you go for the guy that's won everywhere he's been across the world? Because I get this whole, he could be the next big thing. He could be, the next wonder coach. I get that because he's having a great season with, Bournemouth right now. But Nigel Pearson had a good season. Like Michael Laudrup had a good season. Like there are these players, Chris Wilder, Craig Shakespeare. They've all had good seasons. I mean, we've all had heard one-hit wonders on the radio. But did we
Have we all had one-hit wonders on the radio?
Well, we've all heard them on the radio.
I've heard them, but I thought you meant we've all got that in our locker.
We've all heard them. We've all heard. But the thing is like the guys, all the guys done. It really is like we're basing it on this season. And I'm sure if you'd have taken a step back and you'd have offered a coach from Spain that's had 4 bottom half finishes in La Liga is going to come and take over Spurs, everyone would lose their minds. This is Iraola.
Oh, yeah.
Before he went to Bournemouth, it was lower half finishes in La Liga. And Spurs fans would not accept that. They don't want that. They won't take that. Like at the time, they'd have been like, "What the hell is this? What are you doing?" Because we don't have patience.
No Spurs fans know. I didn't even know that. No Spurs fans know that. All Spurs fans know is Iraola's had 9 months of 8 months of a decent stint at Bournemouth, and that'll do. Thank you very much. He's the greatest thing since sliced bread. You're right, Rude.
He's the next best thing till the next best thing, right? Do you know what I mean? And I tell you what, the proof will be in the pudding, and I'm fully prepared to be proven wrong. But when that team gets dismantled because, Milos Kerkez goes to Liverpool and Zabarnyi goes to Chelsea and, they start dismantling that back line and a couple of midfield, even Philip Billings, who actually I don't think is half bad as a, holding defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
Like as soon as the proof will be in the pudding. And if he does it, he does it. And that's fine. I've got no problem doing that whole being mudded thing.
He won't do it, mate, because Bill Foley is not a magician, and when you have a stadium that has 14,000 seats, and it's not exactly a hospitality, I wouldn't even have my wedding there, let alone like if I'm a gazillionaire and I want to go and drop bombs on the in the hospitality suite. I just think that it's the same crucible that Brighton have to get over, that Brentford have to get over, that at some point, if you want to become a team that's ever present in the top 8, you have to stop selling your best players. You have to, therefore, shake hands with the fact that your conveyor belt of talent, there's no team in history, even Ajax, who are known for being the conveyor belt of youth masterdom. Look at them now. Right? Yeah. They're nothing like they used to be, because it's an impossibility to rely on this eye for talent in a world that is now entirely tech driven, that is entirely data driven, and where everybody knows about every 11-year-old that is coming out from any corner of the world. It becomes a race to the bottom. And so, unfortunately, Bournemouth will have their day in the sun. They will. And they're good luck to them. But as soon as they stop selling, if they want to stop selling their best players so they can keep hold of them and then add to that profile to be able to become an ever-present. It's the same reason why Brighton are struggling now. It's the same reason why Brentford won't make it, because Daniel Levy is an early mover in a tradition and a trend and a transition towards the recognition and the realization that American sports teams, and people in the comments that are American, and you, Drew, lives over there, will know this firsthand. Good luck to the boys tomorrow as well. The reality is the stadium, the football teams are so far behind the times relative to other places in the world that stadiums shouldn't be empty on non-match days. They should be full to the brim in every single possible vein, because it's the only way that you can really differentiate your revenue stream. And Bournemouth can't do that with a 14,000 shithole. Sorry, it's a nice stadium, but they can't do it. Luton couldn't do it. Brentford can't do it. Brighton can't do it. And unfortunately, you can't, under this new world of technological and data-driven insights and evidence-based accounting, you cannot continue to find the next big thing. And when you try to hang on to your players, you means your revenue streams are fucked. So I don't see Bournemouth being anything more than a Johnny-come-lately, and they will eventually drift back down to the also-rans of the Premier League, and at some point in the next 2 or 3 years, probably get relegated.
Well, just to jump on the back of that, Sean, just real quick, and I'll let obviously somebody else jump in, but just from the 23-24, 24-25 season combined, Liverpool, give or take, this is players that had an impact that went for a fee, right? Liverpool had a total of 13 players departing or arriving. Arsenal had maybe 12 to 14, depending on who you're thinking about. Man City had 15 to 16. Tottenham had 30.
35.
Between those two, 30. Yeah, well, this is just meaningful players. This doesn't even count for loans in and out. So we have doubled the amount of players that have come in and out of the club in that window than Liverpool, Arsenal, and Man City. Now, Manchester United have had 16 to 20, and Chelsea are the outliers with maybe 15 to 20. But this does, as I say, doesn't include loan players. But just everyone goes on about we've got no ambition, and the numbers kind of beg to differ. Now, you can argue, have the right players been bought? Have we wasted money? Absolutely, but
yeah, that's the obvious.
You cannot say that we haven't at least given it a go in certain instances. We've pissed it up the wall, and we've messed about, and we've fucked around and didn't find out. But you can't.
We're
say
essentially
we are in the middle of that rebuild. We're in the rebuild. It's happening. We are
the social experiment equivalent of someone who stayed in from Thanksgiving until New Year's Eve, and then New Year's comes along, and you're more than happy to spunk it up the wall on a £90 cab to drive a mile down the road, and you really wake up on New Year's Day going, "Where did all my money go?" Because Richalison for 60 million is just an absolute embarrassment. Brennan Johnson, Bissouma, even though everyone thought at the time he was a class signing at 25 million, has been an absolute disaster. I mean, where do you stop? People, I would stop. I wouldn't include Dom Solanke in there. I think you're paying. Right. No, I think you're paying for a good player there. But
under Johan Langer, we brought in 13 players. Right, 4 of them are academy 18-year-olds recently. Right, so 9, and then 22 have gone out in loans or sales. Now, I'm not saying they're good players, and people say, well, they won't make the first team anyway. No, they wouldn't have, and many of them probably wouldn't get many game time anyway. But you had to get rid of them to free up squad space. And even now, we've struggled with only 23 in the Europa League squad, which is another shot in the foot, isn't it, that we've done, right, as well. So we've got to leave players out. So there's been a lot of changes, and also the old academy system's been ripped up when Dean Rastrick left. They ripped up the academy. We had a strict wage structure there. That's all gone. That was all down to Paratici. His band's up in July. I want him back. His band's.
I'd take Paratici back. I think Langer's ruined this club, to be honest with you. I think the recruitment has been so poor. But I just think that the amount of money we've spent on forwards, I think it was, if we do sign, he didn't buy
Richalison. It's Paratici that bought Richalison.
Well, that was planned even before Paratici came into the club. Richalison, they wanted him for a long time.
What signings has Langer been involved in
Well, it's a bit of both. It's a bit of Ange and Lange, because I think 47 million pounds for Brennan Johnson was the biggest waste of money I think we've had in the last 10 years. I think he's so average. I mean, he's not even half the player Aaron Lennon was, and he wasn't
goal
even
scorer this year though.
Yeah, but that's what's worrying, Sean. That's what's worrying. He doesn't offer anything else other than tap-in merchant. He is the tap-in merchant, is what he is, right? Do you know what Ange's football reminds me of?
Have you just come from Sabbath's channel? Is Sabbath's the guy, and I don't disagree with him, who says, sorry, but forwards are like, people go, oh yeah, but you know, all he does is score goals. And Sabbath always correctly says, and
yeah, Sabbath says that as well. But let's be honest.
That's what I mean. But like that's not like, if all you do is score goals and you're a forward.
But the problem is, what else does he offer the rest of the match? And a lot of times he hasn't done that well. Like in his time he's been at Spurs, he hasn't really done that well. Considering what we
not just a tap-in merchant, though. I totally disagree. And I didn't want him.
I think he is personally.
No, he's not.
Why is he not then?
It's telling that Maddison is our top goal scorer still in the league.
Yeah,
and he's been fucking injured half the season.
Yeah, exactly.
League exactly. Well, that'd be, wouldn't it? Not all comps. Yeah. I mean, what I didn't want Johnson at the club. We want to watch videos of him, but I've warmed to him this season. When he was taking all that stick on social media, and we went away in the League Cup in Coventry, and the way he finished that goal, he's put some nice finishes in. And it also takes strikers' awareness to come in on a far post. You can say it's a tap-in. The player's got to get there. A bit like Scarlett did ever so well to get that goal from Decky's cross in the game, the first goal against the European side we played, and tap that in. No, I think Johnson's even got a higher ceiling than he's got. But we'll see. We'll see.
I just think with Johnson, I just think he doesn't offer much. Like, he really doesn't offer that much. That Ange's style of football, right, reminds me of like an old school FIFA game where you used to go to the byline, press the pass button to pass it into the box, and someone tap it in. You could have anyone.
FIFA settings all the time with him,
basically FIFA settings, right? That's how his football is. And it's like you could have any player who just is good at positioning or decent at positioning, and he'll tap those balls in, because it's the way that Ange is designing this system of how he wants to try and play, right? And Johnson is just another player that has a patch of form, like Richalison had last season. He had a patch of form. Doesn't make him a good player. Johnson, I knew this from the moment I saw Johnson. He does not have a football brain. He does not have. If you look at the way,
I just think he's a lazy bastard, mate. I just think he's got no stamina. He does too much of the old.
Yeah, he's got. Probably. You're probably right, Sean. I mean, I don't know if he smokes or not. But...
Poor old Henry Wright. Before Henry deserted the Tottenham fan base to go and do his own channel, and he now just hangs around with all like the highfalutin football terraces of the world. Big up to you, Henry. I can't wait for your stag do. He had the guts to do what I didn't do. I said to him off air one day, I was like, Brennan Johnson, 100% is vaping. 1,000,000%. After that Nottingham Forest debacle, when both of us went up there, I was like, the guy's just trotting on the spot. In fact, I've got the video. I think I've still got the video of it somewhere in here. He just likes to. Here we go. This is Brennan Johnson from the Nottingham Forest. And nothing's changed. You can roll out that clip. You roll out that clip for any game that Brennan Johnson's in. But I just think that the guy's a lazy bastard and hasn't got a stamina. It's not that he hasn't got a football brain. I think he's just lazy and he hasn't got a stamina. He hasn't got the stamina like you were saying earlier, like FIFA settings when your bar gets low and you're hammering the sprint button and you can't get any activity out of it. I think Brennan Johnson
cross either though. That's what Johnson's like. Terrible.
Yeah.
I think the one thing with Brennan Johnson, I will say, is that he's already been involved in 32 games this year. He's got 12 goals, 3 assists. He's played over 2,000 minutes, and up until you're like, sorry, just looking over here. I'm just like, there's nobody like who is he? Who is he really? And I got on his case the other day, and I swore that I would never merge Brennan or Johnson half and half with a Brazilian name ever again, because he was winding me up, because he can't go past the man, he doesn't have a trick, and he can't cross the ball. But I got to admit, like Sava says, he does have the ability to get on the end of something. And I'm sorry, at 22, 23 years old, this is one of the problems that I've got with the club. And this goes back to, this is squad management, right? When we bought last year, we might have bought a little bit clever with Gray and Berghvall and, you know, getting these kids in. That's fantastic. You know what we didn't do? We didn't buy anybody that had European legs in them. Solanke didn't play European football. Maddison, no European football. All of these players have got 40, 45 games in them, maybe. And we're in 4 competitions where we're expected to go quite far. You're expected to do maybe 55, possibly 60 games.
Do you know what?
Yeah,
you've basically...
The Bentancur then became...
You know, and you just right, well, then you just wonder why... You know, you wonder why you're kind of falling... You're falling off a cliff, because everybody that could have been rotated one way or another, Udogie was supposed to come in and relieve part of Johnson's duty. And what's happened? After 3 games, he pulls a nasty hamstring. He's out for the majority of the season. And Johnson has pretty much had to play 70, 80, 90 minutes, 70, 80, 90 minutes. Lo and behold, 22, 23 years old is, you know, he goes down a little bit when it comes to...
I agree with your sentiment of your answer. I do agree with you. And I like the fact that it's evidence-based analysis here with Drew. He brings the stats to back it up. However, I would say I've been to more Tottenham games than I care to even remember. And I can't remember anyone gassing after 30 minutes of the season opening. No. Like, what are we doing here? It was the opening game of the season against Leicester. He was trotting around the pitch like he's exhausted. John, I want to bring you back in, mate.
Can I just say one thing with Johnson quickly, Sean? Just one more thing. The fact that we bought him from Nottingham Forest for £47 million. They've redeveloped their team. Now they're 3rd in the table, and we are where we are, where Nottingham Forest probably were back then when they had Johnson.
Oh, they're another team. They're another team that are going to be Johnny come latelys and gone tomorrow.
I know, Sean. But all I'm saying is that he is that level of play. He's a mid-table Premier League team player. That's all he's ever going to be. And do you know what the worst thing is about Premier League now? Is that if you score 8 goals in the Premier League, you're classed as like a very good player. The standards of English football now is he
mid-level though? Because is he mid-level because the style of player that he is suits a low block team who's breaking?
Maybe, yeah.
Or is he a mid-level player because he's just not good enough? Because if you were to make the argument, would Nottingham Forest be better with Brennan Johnson still in that team? I would say he would be, because Nottingham Forest, despite being 3rd in the league, they still sit low and they still pounce, right? And so for me, I think that Brennan Johnson suit. I don't think it's that he's a bad player. I just think he suits a certain style of football. And given that Ange Postecoglou wanted him, but yet he's demonstrated absolutely zero in his history of being a player that suits a high possession team, it makes it even more bewildering as to why you drop 45, whatever it was, million quid on a player who doesn't have any experience in playing in a certain style.
Sean, what doesn't help? That's the difference between. Sorry, Adrian. Just one quick thing. That's the difference between a good player. Right nowadays, what is this thing about players having to be only good in one system? I mean, if you're a good footballer with a footballing brain, you should be able to play in any system and adapt. That's a good footballer. And you don't see as many good footballers nowadays because you only see, like, we're talking about Brennan Johnson, that he's only good in a certain system. I mean, he's a bloody footballer, for God's sakes. I mean, he should be good in any system if he's a good player. And that's
I disagree. I think that, you know, styles make fights, right? Same in boxing. You're going to have fighters or people in football, players that, you know, that have assets, and that, like Timo Werner, at whatever level of footballer you think he is, right?
But
he has a skill set that primarily relies on his pace, and his pace is only going to be really useful when you're playing against a team that's got a high line and where you can knock the ball over the top and he can have a sprint to get there first behind the fullback, right? Whereas you put 10 men behind the ball and you're asking Timo Werner to take a man on, you're going to get worse outcomes than you are if there's lots of space behind it. I think that there are, especially in the wing-forward situation, I think that, like, how high the defence is relative to your style of football dictates whether or not these players are better or worse suited for.
I agree with that, but it's just for me, it's just
muddied.
It's just the level of footballers in general in the Premier League are nowhere near the standard that we used to see maybe 10, 15 years ago, right?
Yeah,
Every team, right? And you'd get like at least one or two top players, right? In any team, whether that was a lower team or not. You go to Man United back then, they had Berbatov, Ronaldo, Tevez, and Wayne Rooney in their team as their strike force. I mean, nowadays you'll be lucky if one team has one class striker. If that, like I'm saying, there's a dying breed of strikers in the world of football today. I think you can probably count on your hand how many top class strikers there are in the world. Whereas before you'd get like maybe 10 or so in each league, let alone what we're seeing now. And the problem is, because of that, it's lowered the standards of what we should expect to see from footballers now.
And that's also a consequence of the tactical pivot from away from 4-4-2 to one.
Yeah, that's true. Which I was going to say.
That's why I always say that wingers are 10 a penny, right? You just got to look for them. That's why I want to just, because we've been going for an hour and a half already. Adrian, just bear with me 1 second, mate. I'll let you come back in. But I do just want to get John and Blaine's take, because they're quiet, and also Jose quite relative to myself, essentially. John, I want to just you can drift this conversation. We can pivot back towards the players' situation, but I do want to bring in the kind of elephant in the room topic of where does the desire to go for the players that we need come from? Daniel Levy is the topic of most channels most of the time at the moment, and I do think it's necessary, because on my channel I obviously do a lot of defending of him, but that's primarily because I think that most of the other people in the community spend a lot of time smashing him in the face. And I'll give you guys, as the first panel show for a while, give you guys your chances to get your Daniel Levy beef or Daniel Levy take off your chest. So with all of what we just said here, John, regarding the players, are they good enough, relative, horses for courses, etc. Is Daniel Levy guilty of, or what is he guilty of with regards putting together a team that is youth-centric, that I believe has got a hell of a lot of potential, and we spent a fuck ton of money. We spent it wrong, but is Daniel Levy guilty of getting his oar in there too much? Is he guilty of telling Langer and Paratici when they bring together maybe Gyökeres on a plate and say, this is a player we should be going for? I don't know if that's even a plausible scenario, but just as an example, hypothetical, is Daniel Levy going, forget that level of player, you're only going to be working between this kind of criteria? Is Daniel Levy guilty of just believing in the advocacy of bad players by directors of football who are challenged and skilled and knowledgeable enough to be able to provide better resources in assets, player assets, for what we need? Because I think there's a massive mismatch in what we need versus what we get. We overpay, and a lot of these players don't work out, but I don't know who's responsible for it. So let me hear your take, John.
Right, okay. It's a difficult one, isn't it, to know exactly what's going on in the club. Does Levy say to Langer or Paratici? I mean, it does sound like there's infighting between the two of them. There's a bit of a power struggle. Obviously, Langer is the technical director or director of football, but Paratici's still an advisor. He's at every home game. He's still there, basically. And it does seem that whether it's an instruction from Levy and the board that we go back to the Frank Arnson days and bring in a load of young players, and then obviously we saw with Poch, he had a load of young players. He brought them through. It's definitely, that's a let's plan for 3 years' time almost, isn't it? With the players we're bringing in, and with all these academy players we're now bringing in. Now we signed 4 in January, didn't we? Well, obviously one will join in next January, the young Irish lad. There's definitely, I think Paratici's got through to Levy that we can't avoid going to pluck youth players, academy players, and pay them more money. Something that Chelsea and City have been doing for 15 odd years. And Chelsea have now got a sustainable business model because of the amount of money they spent on their academy. They keep selling players that none of us have ever heard of for 15 million. They loan them out. And now we're starting to do that, because I doubt all 4 of the players we brought in January, obviously, again, the Irish lad will be next January, will probably get into the first team eventually and be first team players. But there's a good chance we'll move them on. And we'll see. I mean, Will Lancashire is another example of a player we paid, Sheffield United $1 million for, with another potential $1 million on top. Whether he makes it, time will tell. We haven't seen enough of him, to be honest. But from what I've seen, we could do with him now, because he can hold the ball up. But, I've always been quite neutral on Levy, pretty much. I think, I know there's a lot of people Levy out. There's not that many Levy in. I know you look at the sensibility of it, Sean. And I've always been quite neutral.
Don't bring me a problem, bring me a solution, is all I ever say.
Okay. I've always been, be careful what you wish for. And we had this chat the other day, because Man United at the moment those fans are not enjoying Jim Ratcliffe at all. They are not happy with him. and they hate the Glazers, obviously. Newcastle are happy with their ownership. So
frustrated.
Right, okay.
They're sitting there saying
doing well.
All the loopholes that Chelsea and City seem to jump through. You've got more money than everyone else. Why aren't you putting $1.5 billion down to build the new St James's Park? And the PIF aren't going to fund it. So it's going to be debt laden. And you're paying what, 5-6%, maybe actually far more than that, probably, on that sort of debt. So all these, like all the money in the world, no intent to drop into that bucket to finance a new stadium. You know, like you say, John, careful what you wish for.
Yeah. So it's difficult to know whether it's the board directing Langer to go and get a youthful squad, or if that's something he wants to do, because that might be to say he may be coming saying this is what I think we should do. The trouble for me is we got rid of a lot of experienced players. I always bring up Højbjerg. I wanted him gone, but we didn't replace his experience. We didn't replace Dyer, Lloris, their experience. And when it comes to managing games, we get Bissouma, who has his brain farts. Or, you know, Bentacle's supposed to be that player, but for some reason isn't stepping up. When we first signed him, he looked a great player. Has he still not recovered from all those injuries? You know, that half an hour against Aston Villa last season before Matty Cash took him out, he was running the game. I haven't seen that player since.
Yeah, and I agree. Bentacle, yeah.
You know, we've got, you know, Van der Ven, brilliant player. I know he's got injuries. What's he, 22 now? We've got all these young players. We've got Ben Davis, who suddenly everyone suddenly loves him now when he was derided 4 or 5 months ago. And you know, I've always liked Ben Davis. He's a solid player. He's a 7 out of 10, isn't he? So we do need investment. I still hark back to Sarr and bloody Ryan Nelson, and that shocking when we could have had Suarez, and we looked at Eden Hazard, but we dithered, and he ended up going to Chelsea. We could have stepped up then, and there's always these times we don't quite step up.
Ultimately, over 25 years, if you're like, I'd always say, I'm not going to hark on because I want to get around everyone else, but over 25 years, you're never going to get everything right? None of us do. Like I said 1,000 times, if I get through the day making 51% better decisions than bad ones, it's a good day for me. Blaine, I want to come back to you, mate. Daniel Levy, I know you're Levy out, Ange out. Again, if not him, then who? To John's point, is it better the devil you know? I maintain that I think it is until you show me better. All I hear is Levy out, but that's a problem, not a solution. So, Blaine, where do you stand on the ownership?
To correct you on one thing, Sean, I'm not quite Levy out. I'm Levy in, but not in a footballing position. I think I came on your show actually in the summer and said this. So where I'd love to see Levy is give him whatever title, glorified piece of shit you want to call him, right? Call him president of infrastructure or director of, I don't know, commercial, right? But get him away from the footballing side of the business. Yeah. And bring somebody else in.
He can't help himself, mate. He cannot help himself.
Correct.
He can't help himself go on a plane, speak to his mate, El Khalifi with PSG, right? Everyone gives him, like, not everyone. I gave him credit for getting the, retrospectively, I guess, getting the Jed Spence deal. He was instrumental in that. Obviously instrumental in getting Kinsky done. His dad said so. But he fucked up with regards the Paris player who went to Juve.
Mouani.
Yeah. Mouani.
By the way, he scored 4 and 3.
He can't relinquish.
He screwed up with Matisse Tell, right? Like, for everyone that we hear about that, Daniel Levy was instrumental in this one. Why are you still involved, mate? You have Rob McKenzie, you have Langer, you've still got your mate Paratici hanging around. Like, why? And you've got Scott bloody Munn, who God knows what he's up to, but we don't hear anything from him. Why are you still involved in transfer? Even the Pedro Porro deal 2 years ago that dragged on in January, where he outsourced the negotiations to a third-party a consultancy, and they fucked it up. So he had to fly over and negotiate with the sporting chairman, who apparently is worse than Daniel Levy with regards being a tight bastard. Like,
but that's his nature. Like, that's his nature. If you look at the interviews, I've got a 30-minute interview of Daniel Levy when he was talking about when the stadium just been built, right? And he goes into detail of how much his input is when it comes to even where the lights are positioned in the stadium. Like, he was changing.
Someone was telling me, I think Lubo was saying that they spent another 50 million quid pulling up the floor. Yeah, the floor wasn't right.
One of I think if one of Johnny's mates or one of Lubo's mates, one of them, I actually had a mate who was an electrician in the stadium, right? And he was saying how Levy got them. They were instructed they had to change a light position or something in one of the toilets 7 times or something like that because they couldn't get it right. And that was coming from above. That had to be perfection to how he wanted it, basically.
Well, why can't he fucking get a beer less fucking flat? Why can't he get the burgers a little bit kind of like burgery, you know?
Because you should know why, Sean. Because when you're an investor and you've bought an investment for £22 million and you've turned it into something that's worth what 4 or 5 billion, that's why he's so controlling, because he's made it.
He thinks everything's turned to gold, right? But
yeah.
I don't know, but at the same time, there's this argument. Blaine, I'll come back to you to finish your point, and then I'm going to come down to the other boys as well. There's this argument that Daniel Levy, you know, he's taken us as far as he can, and like, you know, it's the natural, and I completely agree and concur with the sentiment generally, but the specifics of which I'm not sure I do. That generally speaking, if you're someone that's built a business from the ground up, I've got experience doing that, then at some point it's going to get to a point, if you're scaling, whereby you need to bring someone else in who knows how to take you. You've got it from here to here, but to go from here to here, it takes a different skill set. And arguably, you can make the point that to go from 22 million to 3 billion, how much bigger can you get? Do you really need someone else? Daniel Levy is a master of the finances, Blaine, but is he the bottleneck on Tottenham's success, or are there things outside of the control of Tottenham, like the rules, the loopholes, the fact that money has ruined football, all that shit that Tottenham fans don't care about? They should, they don't. Is that the reason why Tottenham can't go to the next level?
So I don't quite agree with that, actually, Sean. So you say he's master of finances, right? Why then does he let, right, and I'll call them assets or players, why does he let contracts run down? Why does he not get return on that investment? When was the last time that we sold a player for more than we bought them for?
We were just talking about this on Summer's show.
Well, Gareth Bale's the perfect example of the biggest.
It was actually Steven Berghvall. We checked it.
Yeah.
Steven Berghvall was the last player.
Correct. Yeah. Obviously, Harry Kane, because he came up through the system. Gareth Bale.
But
3
times
bought,
in
right? 2 decades, Sean.
Kyle Walker.
We made more money on Berghvall than we bought him for, did we?
2.5 million or something like that. Yeah.
1.5 million. 1.5 million pounds. Yeah. 1.5.
How did we squeeze that one?
So he's great at penny pinching whenever it comes to buying a player, but when it goes to sell, we just give it away. Go on, take him. Fucking, we'll give you 50 quid in a packet of crisps and the player. There you go.
That's Levy's fault, though, Blaine, isn't it? Because since the stadium opened in 2019, we spent 1.2 billion on players, right? I think before Ange came in, I think that was on 29 players. Let that sink in, right? And like, so who is he appointed? Where are these, these brilliant directors of football that get paid good money? Why has our recruitment been that crap, which it has been? And why has not the due diligence been done on players, not just their skill set, their attitude, their mentality and all that, so you don't get some with an attitude like Ndombele, right? Or players that don't like training and things like that. Well, I mean, the whole footballing side and structure of the club was like just rotten to the core, basically. It was just rubbish. I mean, and Levy has to take the blame for that. He appoints these people, but now it looks like he's got.
Yeah, but the buck stops at the top, Adrian. But I find it like it's a reasonable argument, like in anything in life. The guy at the top is responsible for all that happens beneath. I totally get it, but ultimately, it's incredibly lazy. Like not you personally, but anyone that says, "Oh, the individual mistakes of this, that, and the other in every different department." If all of that stuff is absolved of if they're absolved of all responsibility because let's throw our anguish and our ire and our fire towards Daniel Levy, I just think that you're literally absolving people that are very well paid and that are responsible for their jobs, that come with good CVs. It's not like he's hired anyone that's an absolute fucking bozo. They all have, from Paratici to Steve Hitchin to Kamoli to Frank Arneson, yada yada yada. They all come with incredible CVs, but for whatever reason,
apart from our coaching team.
That's a valid point. But if you're appointing these people that are good at their job, and you're not giving them resources, the money to go out and buy players, or the players that they want, which we don't know. Money, right? There's a lot of I mean, we know there's a big lack of transparency at the club. We don't know with some of these football directors, and they all have gagging clauses in their contracts, so they don't lose money when they go. But we don't know. I mean, whether Arnes and all them wanted more money, wanted this plan, and like Levy said no at that time, because I mean we went 518 days without buying a player. I mean,
so would you like to see a model then whereby at the start of the window, I don't know if this does exist, but at the start of the window for Daniel Levy to fully reverse his hands on the reins model, would it be better to encourage a more reasonable outcome, right? Like, I'm not saying that the Levy out protests are stupid. I think that they are necessary, relevant, and I actually think they helped. I think they helped got the Matisse Tilda over the line. I think that they're necessary. I think that people like Brian Daigle, et al., I think these guys that go to the protest, I think it's a relevant and a necessary thing, and I congratulate them and I support them in their missions. I won't personally get on board it. I think it's a waste of time in terms of outcomes of what they want, but I do think the pressure that is exuded from them, like, it does have an impact. But what I would argue is there maybe an argument then to say, like, a better model to remove Daniel Levy's direct input from, like, is Jack Grealish worth the extra 5 million quid, etc., for example? Is it better for Daniel Levy to sit there and go, absent player sales aside, your budget for this summer or for this season, and you've got to spread it how you see fit in January or otherwise, your budget in total is X amount of money, 150 million quid. For transfers and in terms of salaries, you can move the needle from 47% to 60% or whatever, 58%, absent sales. Now, I'd like to be a part of the conversations, but I will leave it up to you how you spend it. And if you fuck up, it's on you. And that should be something that's articulated from the club so that everyone is a little bit more aware of who it is that's pulling the trigger, who it is that's responsible. Like Daniel Levy's lack of clarification of who it is that's doing what and where the money's spent and who decides on how much a player is worth. The lack of clarity on that, to me, it allows people to have an unreasonable point of view because it's based in ignorance around who it is that's responsible for why it is that we do or don't sign the players that we do. And so for me, I feel like it would behoove Daniel Levy to come out and say, to some degree, I know that no other club does this either, but to some degree, to kind of make it clear that from now on, the footballing team under Scott Mann and everybody else, they make the decisions. I will find the budget. That's the budget. If you want to sell players, over to you. You decide how much they're worth. You decide whether or not the salary should be X or Y. You decide the bonus incentives. You decide all that stuff under the direction of what our game plan is as a football club. This is where we are. This is what we're trying to achieve. So we would like you to go more towards youth because that's the trend and that's where the value can be found for the reciprocation of revenue in the future. But ultimately, I'll hand over to you. And in so doing, he absolves himself of the direct relationship between the fuck-ups that we see too often with mismatched transfers.
Sean, just on that, right? You've come from a similar background to me in terms of business, right? So I look at where, and I'll not mention company names, obviously for confidentiality, but where I work today versus where I worked before in the past, see the person at the very top putting too much control on things. It stifles creativity. It stifles going forward as an organization. The organization I'm in today, right? The guy at the top, we never speak to him because he goes, right, CRO, you go and do this. CFO, you go and do that. You're responsible for it. If you have an issue, come to me. Daniel Levy can't fucking do that.
Because he can't trust anyone else, right? He thinks it's the Daniel Levy show in Daniel Levy's mind, right? I built this from 20, as you said, Danny, 22 to 3 bill.
Yeah.
You know, in his mind, I'm a fucking genius, and all these other guys, I'll employ them because I can't do everything. I can't do the kind of itty gritty, but actually, at the end of the day, it's Daniel Levy who's the real fucking master player. It's an ego, right? It's a narcissistic kind of
100%.
But we declined, didn't we? We declined from the time when Poch wasn't back, and the squad was poor, right? It got top fours, luckily, I think, in quite a few times, right? But you know, I think we went second, third, fourth, sixth, seventh, fourth, eighth, or something like that, and 8 league positions or something like that. And then the consequences of that, when we needed a massive squad overhaul, and we're still going through it. We failed better in the transfer market recently, but you imagine if we'd have had to pay top money for Udogie and Sarr and Kulusevski and Bentancur, right? We got those players in relatively cheap by the standards at the time. When we bought, if we had to change all those players and pay 50, 60 million pound a player, we wouldn't be where we are now, which league-wise we're in a poor position, but we know the squad's better. It's just it's unbalanced. We need 6 players. We need a winger. We need a striker. We need 2 midfielders. We need a left back. We need a left centre back. We still need, in my opinion,
Adrian,
6 players.
How long have we been saying that as Spurs fans, that we need a left back? We bought
all these players, but they haven't been the greatest fit, have they?
But we still haven't got a second left back. I mean, we've got our second right back.
That's been a big bugbear of me as a left foot centre back. But Ange did say on his press conference, and if we can't get who we want in, we won't get him in, because I fail to believe that with the players we've brought in, 9 under Langer, right, not including the 4 kids, the 9 that we brought in, that they weren't trying to get a left back in or a left centre back in, but it's January, not available or whatever.
Should have got David Hanko, Adrian.
Yeah, I would have took him because his experience.
He's so good, mate.
He can play left back and left centre back.
Such a good player as well.
Where's Hanko from?
You watch in 5 years' time. We'll be sniffing around paying 80 million quid for him. He's a brilliant player. Jose, I want to bring you in, mate.
But then he might not want to come. The club might want to.
I know, of course. Yeah, always other variables. But I hear you, mate. I hear you. Jose, what's your take on Daniel Levy, mate? Are you where do you fall in the peripheral?
Right, I'm going to go back. I'm going to give you a whole answer here, and then that'll be my lot, because I've been waiting nearly an hour to talk.
Sorry, mate. Sorry, buddy. Sorry. You got to jump in. You got to jump in, Mortel. You got to jump in.
But I'm interested to see what the other guys have got to say as well. But I initially started off by saying there's a piece of the pie has to be apportioned around a lot of places around the club, not just one area, right? All I'll say, I heard you guys talking about, but these guys get hired with CVs, blah, blah, blah. Right. For me, our players, are they coached any better? I'm not sure they are. You look at the coaching CVs, because I have. Our coaches have been nowhere. They've done nothing in football, and they're the coaches that we've got, and that's what Ange works with. Ange is clearly a manager. He tells the coaches what he wants. The coaches go and do it. I don't think the coaches have delivered. I think we need to look at our coaching setup. And so there's a bit of blame to the coaches. There's some blame to the manager. There's some blame to the players not being good enough, or not being, not playing for the club and letting the performances go down. Now, if I'm moving on further up the food chain, for me, I'm still Langer. Villa let go of Langer. They didn't stand in his way. They let him come to Tottenham, right? And that said, and spoke volumes for me when it first happened. Yeah. Paratici, his ban is over on the 25th of June this year. The only person that I think, in all the time that Levy's been at the helm, the only footballing person that I think has got to Levy and gets Levy's ear in 24 years has been Paratici. Now, for me, Paratici, you were naming players earlier, or someone was naming players earlier. These deals were done by Paratici. Yep. Langer can't move deals on. Langer starts it off, and then Levy has to go and finish it, because Langer can't get the deals across the line. And
he doesn't come across like a salesman, does he? He doesn't come across like it. No. If you listen to him in interviews, he sounds quite boring, quite methodical.
And you speak to people from Villa, and they say exactly the same thing that I'm thinking of him being here at Tottenham. Now, for me, we're at odds, because Levy, if he wants to let go of the footballing side, I think Scott Munn is a wrong appointment. Scott Munn is a spreadsheet person, and he's not a footballing person. Regardless of what he did with City Group, he never actually got involved in the footballing side of it, picking players, picking coaches. He never did that. And
to grow their market in another region of the world, basically, is what he did.
But he never did footballing side of it, what we would call footballing side of it. Now, for me,
he was a cycling guy, wasn't he, Scott Munn? He came from the Australian Olympic cycling team originally. Then he got into football because he was just a success at the Australian cycling shit.
So for me, I don't see what Scott Munn does, and for me, it'll be an interesting one if Paratici is hanging about, it'll be an interesting one what happens at the end of the season, because when you've got a contractor and an employee both doing similar roles, who do you side with? The contractor or the employee? For the time being, he's got to side with the employee, with Langer. And come the summer window, he's going to have to make a decision. Does he make Paratici that employee again? So, in saying that, with Levy, for me, it's been some wrong appointments that he's made over the time.
Just before, hang on, just to follow up on that point you just made. What's your take though? Would you rather, obviously, from what I think I can gather what you're going to say, but you'd rather ship Langer out or demote him or something, make him young talent specialist, and you go back to Paratici? Would you?
I would employ Paratici once his band's finished as a full-time employee. Forget contractor, because he's also, like I said, he's the closest person to ruffle Levy's feathers and get his ear on footballing matters. For me personally, I might be wrong, but that's my personal opinion.
I agree with you.
You're right. They are very good friends.
So for me, where am I with Levy? Look, as a businessman, you cannot doubt what he's done. But for me, I feel that he drops himself in it far too often in stupid things that he does and idiotic decisions that are made. And for me, this season, and I might be talking away from the football side, taking away the concessions from the older people, he's completely dropped the bomb. Then he got interviewed by either Oxford or Cambridge, and when he got interviewed by them, he vets the questions. So he'll tell you what he's prepared to answer and what he isn't, and then he prepares his answers. He was asked the question of what are your three top footballing achievements at Tottenham Hotspur. His first one was building the stadium. That's not really a footballing achievement in my eyes, but that was number one. Number two was reaching the Champions League final. And if I've actually forgotten what number three was.
You'd hope the third one would be the lifting the League Cup, right?
Yeah, we won a fucking trophy in 2008, and that weren't in his top three. And
it was the longest bar in Europe.
It wasn't in the top three. And what I'm trying to say is that he vets the questions, he vets the answers, and then still went with that as his top three. And then the last but not least, with all the shit that we've had going on this season with our injuries and stuff like that, you would have thought, or I would have thought, and anyone else in the world would have thought, is that you've got a winter transfer window. If you've been doing your work in the background, you accelerate anything from the summer to the winter, if you can. You start tapping up agents to see whether your player wants to come, because you know where your holes are in the squad. Come the fucking winter transfer window.
That must happen, mate. It must, like again.
John, devil's advocate, didn't we do it with Kinsky, though?
Because
we were looking at Kinsky in the summer, and we accelerated the winter.
We brought Kinsky forward, but what happened to the rest of them? And, you know, at the end of the day, I don't care what anyone says. I look at Man City, and Man City are run properly, and they've got a fucking different, their scouting team and everything is unique, right? But
they've also got the draw, mate, where Man City are the equivalent of Real Madrid in the Premier League, in as much as if a player's agent phones and goes, listen, do you fancy like Kuznanov's agent, right? Hey, listen, Manchester City are in for you. Who else is in for me? Oh, Tottenham, Southampton, Fiorentina, and Espanyol. Yeah, I'll go to Man City. Thanks very much.
But Sean,
how much are you going to pay me? You're going to pay me more than anyone in the others, and also I'm going to be guaranteed probably 2 trophies a season outside of this season.
Sean,
Man City. Thanks very much.
Sean, you know the score, right? At the end of the day, if you're going to go, you do your homework. You approach these agents. You have a chat with them.
Yeah,
and if they don't want to come, if you know they don't want to come and they're not interested, move on. Go to the next one and find out about the next one.
Who did we know that didn't want to come, that we spent all winter tapping up?
No, I'm not. No, what I'm saying is, if that occurs, you move on to the next one.
It does occur. It must occur. I cannot subscribe. Jose. I cannot subscribe to this notion that Daniel Levy and the cohort people in the scouting department are doing something that is entirely different to every other team. I believe that the agents, it's in their absolute best interest to sit there and say, yeah, the player might be interested, because they need a bid to come in that starts a merry-go-round. They're never going to tell a club like Tottenham to not bother putting in a bid because it's only Arsenal that are interested because they're going to get a slice of the pie of the money that's coming from the transfer, and they're going to get a slice of the pie of the wages. And so it's in the agent's best interest. I know this is off topic, but has anybody seen the Sky documentary about Boyzone?
Yeah.
Right? No, I know this is off topic.
Sure, I have a life.
No, well, it's actually a really interesting. I've only seen episode 1 and 2, but it's actually really interesting.
Louis Walsh is a monster.
Louis Walsh is an absolute monster, but he is the sort of character of what is probably 10 a penny in the agency world in football, whereby it's all about planting stories and it's all about attention and it's all about, like, there's none of that. It's just not this nice game that we all expect, an easy game. I would imagine that they are all, every agent, it's in their client's best interest, it's in their best interest to talk their players up, and to encourage every team who's showing an interest to follow up on it, because you create a bidding war, and a bidding war is good for their business. So that, to me, I think that this notion that you're going to just get like flat rejections from players, I just don't, or from agents, I just don't think that's going to happen.
Okay, that's my comment. Tell I don't know. Right, I tell you what.
Blaine, that was really oh, go on.
I'm going to go back to. All right, let me wishy-washy what I said about the winter. I'm going to park that one, blow it out of my mind, fog brain. Fuck you! What did we do in the do in the fucking summer? We done exactly the same thing again. We didn't get. We were well short in the summer of getting players in, and I've got a feeling, and it's only a feeling because I don't know. I don't work at the club, but I've got a feeling that if Ange wanted a type of player, let's call it, he wanted a left winger or a left inside forward. I've got a feeling that Ange just said, "This is the type of player that I'm after. These are the attributes that the player needs to have." Langer, go away and do your piece of work. And Langer goes away and does his piece of work. And he comes back to him and says, you've got Timo Werner, Pedro Neto, Donald Duck. Which one of the three do you want? And by the way, we're not paying the money for Pedro Neto. So basically, you've lost him. You've got a choice of Timo Werner and Donald Duck. Who do you want? There you go. That's what I feel. But that's what I feel we've been doing. I think that the people that we've got with Munn and Langer, that's what I think that they've been doing. I think they're so off their game that when it does
I understand why people lean into that notion that these people are all incompetent. I just can't imagine for a second that a club as big relative to the other 1,000 football clubs in the world as Tottenham Hotspur are just that pathetic and ridiculous in their ability to do their business. I think that what happens at Tottenham happens everywhere else as well. I think there is just the unfortunate reality that Tottenham Hotspur, in order to close the gap on where you are to where you want to be, at a club like Tottenham, you have two avenues in which you can go down. One is you try to compete with the teams who are at the top, who also want the players that you want, who have the ability to say, you can come here and only play 50% of minutes, but you're still going to walk home with a far higher likelihood than Tottenham to pick up a trophy, like City, Arsenal, etc., Chelsea, whatever. Or you go down the other path of going, well, youth, let's go and get together the best youth talent in the world football. And when you look at how much we played for Archie Gray, when you look at how much we paid for Matisse Tell on loan, like, I think that's the path that Daniel Levy chose, because the other path is fraught with missed opportunities because we can't compete on the draw. The draw is incredibly important to players. I'm coming to you. I want to win trophies. Am I going to do that at Tottenham? Relative to Arsenal, no. Relative to City, no. Chelsea, no. And I know it's a chicken and the egg, though, Jose. It's a chicken and the egg. You can't sell something you haven't done, and the teams that you're competing with for the very best can. Now, I know that you can make the argument that we don't pay enough money.
Yeah,
the salaries.
Who are we competing with then? I'm going to ask the question in the panel. Who are we competing with?
We're competing with Newcastle.
Really?
We're competing with Villa. That's the teams that we're competing with on the draw.
Well, that's the teams we're supposed to be competing with.
Yeah, I don't know whether we're competing with them. I think we're competing with teams below that.
No, we're not. We're not.
I think a lot of it comes down to
Matisse Tell wanted to go to United. Why? I've got no fucking clue. They're an absolute shambles. But Matisse Tell thinks there's a higher likelihood of getting a trophy at Manchester than there is at Tottenham. But Newcastle United is a fair comparison. Villa is a fair comparison. Bournemouth, Wolves, Nottingham Forest, they're not fair comparisons. Tottenham went and gazumped and beat Bayern Munich for Radu Dragoson's signature based on the pitch. We managed to beat Barcelona to Lucas Berghvall based on the pitch. We managed to beat United to Tell based on the finances. None of those teams were able to convince those three specific players to go to their clubs ahead of Tottenham based on anything more important. And to me, I think if we think we can go and compete with City for Kuzanov, we're in dream world land. I think we have to recognise where we're at in the pecking order.
We can't. I agree. We can't compete with like the Cities, Liverpools, Arsenals, Chelseas. I would even say we can't compete with Newcastle. To be honest, I think Newcastle out of our league in terms of like if
Lloyd Kelly chose Newcastle over Tottenham, didn't he?
Yeah, but it's also you got to remember, Sean. They can pay astronomical wages if they want to, right?
No, they can't. They can't.
What because of yeah. Well, yeah, but they can still attract better quality of player, like Isak, for example. I mean,
Isak wasn't Isak. Isak, when he signed for Newcastle, wasn't Isak of today.
Yeah, but it was still a very highly rated youngster with a lot of ability at that age.
But we had Harry Kane at the time. Why would Isak come to Tottenham and play play second fiddle with Harry Kane?
We had a chance. We had a chance. Yeah, we're true, but we had a chance of bringing in him when we got Richalison, right? We had a chance then, so we could have gone for him.
You'd already gone to Newcastle by that point.
No, wasn't it just before? Just before, no, wasn't it?
Don't think so.
Oh,
I think it was the same summer, I think.
Oh, it was the same summer.
Joel,
maybe the summer before.
Right? I just want to say one thing, Adrian.
7:36. Bring my post up, Sean. 7:36. I want to ask people about Langer here.
Just one question, Adrian. Just one thing. I personally think, right, the board have backed Ange more than any of the other managers we've had for a long time, right? Personally, I think the way that the players they brought in are a lot of them of what Ange has wanted, and I think that's why, if going by what you just said, Sean, about this pitch that they're pitching to Berghvall and all these players,
we've gone down the youth path. It's clear as day that we of those two doors that you can open. We're like, what's the point of going down the City path? Let's go down the path of trying to compete for the best young talent, and for the most part, we've been very successful at it.
True, but also I think that's also could be a telling thing as to why Ange might still be at this club come past the summer. Because if there is this pitch, Ange is not gonna pitch something and then in 6 months' time he's gone. They must be thinking something long-term future if they're getting these young players in. And Ange is talking about
that's again the head scratcher though, Danny. It's where the fuck is Ange Postecoglou's track record of developing youth?
I agree with that.
Where's the youth? Where's his youth? He didn't do that at Celtic. I don't know what he did in Japan or Australia.
No, he didn't.
He hasn't. Graham Potter would have been a far better choice if we're going down the youth path.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
I'll open that up to anyone else who wants to chime in.
Right, I just want to talk about Langer here. I mean, like, it's signings. I mean, like, we can all say Werner, get out of our club, right? But these other 8 signings, are they bad? Are they awful?
Well, we know nothing about Jan. We don't know what's going to happen there.
True.
Right?
I think we don't really know because we haven't really seen them. Like all of these players, we've hardly seen. Solomon, I don't think is a good enough player. I think the best out of the bunch.
Mudryk out of Shakhtar Donetsk side though, when he was in Shakhtar Donetsk.
I think Berghvall has got ability. I think Berghvall and Gray, you can see at their age, they have got ability. Right?
Berghvall and Gray are going to be the absolute fucking monsters now in the Premier League.
If they can keep growing and stay injury free and not have any problems in that way, and they can keep developing, you can see Berghvall has got some talent, man. That kid has got talent. Like he could be a class midfielder.
He's fearless.
Like, yeah, he fit exactly that, Sean. He is fearless, and he's also very technically gifted as well. But Archie Gray is so composed at his age, like he's versatile as well. And for him to be playing in all these different positions is only good for his development. But obviously, we still haven't seen him really in midfield, which is where his main position is. So I would have liked to see what he's going to be like in midfield, because I think if you're going to, he could be. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be the number 6, but we don't know if he could be a holding number 6 that we actually need. So
I think he could be. Like a couple of years from now, you could be looking at Gray, Berghvall, and Donnelly as the 6, 8, and 10. Yeah, I mean, If they could work that between them, I mean, that's fantastic looking. But just to touch on the Levy thing,
because fans, we want to go. Where the fuck is our another 2 years? Another 2 years, Drew?
Well, just to touch on the Levy thing, I think the problem with Levy is that he's too emotionally tied to the club, and he doesn't know when to get out of his own way sometimes. And I think we should have. I think the frustration with a lot of the fan base, and I get where they're coming from, is that you've backed this clown that they see Ange as, and you didn't back Poch, because you could see, I mean, what would Poch would, as we said, the kids would say, Poch would cook with these kids, right? So there's this kind of bafflement, like there's an understanding that, yeah, all right, we decided to go down this win now path, and we've now reverted back to the youth path. Well, what have we just done for the last 4 or 5 years?
Well, the last 4 or 5 years, I completely agree, have been an absolute shit show. But have they backed Ange, or I believe that Ange was, I've said it 1,000 times, was the guy before the guy. He was the necessary pivot towards the football that we all want to see, right? The attractive football. But in order to, it's like in politics, when the status quo says this time it's different, change for the better, but it's the same political horseshoe that is always saying the same thing, but nothing ever materially changes. You need to actually invoke change where people can get behind it. That's where populism comes from. It's extreme pivots, even though they don't actually deliver what their rhetoric delivers. It needs to be that, because if you're saying change, you're saying the same thing the previous government said and the previous normality said that never actually manifests anyway. And so with Ange, you need this pivot, this wild swing over to the other side to get away from the Conte, the Mourinho, the Nuno, all that shit. You need to pivot back to something that's crazy in its extreme, but when you align that with the philosophy of going after all the young talent that is never going to be ready to manifest into the skills that we hope they're going to be during that next manager's time, because they're only given 18 months, 2 years. That's why I fundamentally stand by my rhetoric that Ange was always only ever going to be the guy before the guy.
Yeah, I get. I know you've always said that, Sean. I just, look, I don't. It's just hard to say, because hard to see what they want to do, if they're going to get rid of him in the summer, or they're going to keep him for 1 more year. It just depends. It depends on how he does, to be honest. Because, like, history would say that the way Ange has performed this season, he should have been sacked by now. Like, it's the first time we've seen Daniel Levy not do Daniel Levy things. Like, in terms of, usually he would sack a manager.
Yeah, change the Spurs. We're seeing it.
Yeah, we're seeing it. I mean, he's changing the wrong way though. So, so I don't know. Like, it's a hard one to tell. But personally, I think that Ange is going to be there for a bit of time, unless it gets dramatically bad. And I personally think that the injuries has helped him stay in this job, because I think he's probably gone back to the board and the club and say, well, look how many injuries you've got. It's been hard to manage 4 competitions with all these injuries. But I think that's covered up a little bit of the bad tactical decisions he's made.
The reality is, even with the full strength, he's shit.
Yeah,
guys, let's unless anyone's got some like dramatic new take on what we've been talking about for the last hour, we have got one. The whole title of the show is about Aston Villa, and that's coming up in 12 hours. So last topic, and I want to go around the houses here. I want everyone to get their say. I want John to start. And I come to tell next Jose. I keep calling you Sorry, Jose. Villa, right? What's going to happen? What's going to happen tomorrow, mate? Who do you want to see play? How do you want to see the shape of the team? Anything we? I think he's already said in terms of team news that no one's coming back. So, what do you want to see? What do you want to see manifest?
I mean, you've got the Kinsky Austin conversation we had earlier in the show. I wouldn't mind seeing Austin in, but if it's Kinsky, it is. Porro will come back in. I suspect Spence will be let back to left back. I thought Danso did well the other night. So Danso and Davis keep them at the back. So really, what do you do with Gray? Do you rest Gray? Do you put him into the midfield? I'd love to see Gray and Berghvall in that midfield. So it's those 2 plus 1.
You got to bring Berg back in. You got to bring Berg back into the team, right?
Got to bring Berghvall back in. His legs is. I mean, probably I'd stick Bentancur. Although I had to go over earlier in the show. I'd have him with those 2 young lads.
Yeah.
Then you look, again, we haven't got much. It's going to have to be Tellers, the striker, Kulu, right wing. I'd like to see Mikey Moore on the left. Son's knackered. I know Cooley's knackered as well. But we are, and Dane Scarlett's cup tied, isn't he, apparently, because he played for Oxford, which, again, is ridiculous planning by the club. Why bring him? They must have known they were going to bring him back. There was a possibility they bring him back in January, and then Ange would use him so that he can't go out on loan again. So why let him play in the FA Cup? They could have blocked that, surely. It just seems a bit baffling and stupid. Yeah. But apart from that, it's going to be kids on the bench, isn't it? Have I missed? What other first teamers have we got other than Sarr and Bissouma? Maybe Richalison, but he doesn't rate him, doesn't he? He's not going to use him when he has to.
No. Well, I guess you could play Porro and Jed Spence again, make room. I don't know if there's any.
I think
Spence
is the best. Spence is the best wing back we've got, fullback we've got in the squad. Personally, right, defensively and attacking wise, I think we're very lucky that he's come into it this season, and we're very lucky that we've had this injury problem in that sense. Otherwise, Ange would never have used him, because they've tried to get rid of Spence this season. But the other thing as well, I think you're right, John. Berghvall has to start. I think he has to start. And do you know what? I want to say just one thing on Micky Moore, right? He looks promising, but I don't want people to overhype him because if we're actually looking at what he's produced, right? He hasn't produced hardly anything, right? And I know a lot of people rate Micky Moore, but if we're looking at the two Arsenal youngsters that have just come into it at the similar age, right?
Emery and Lewis.
Lewis Kelly, is it something, or
Lewis Kelly?
Yeah. And Alwyn is he the same age as Micky Moore, right?
Yeah, 17.
He's shown far more ability than what he could produce. He looks more ready, more built for the Premier League, or more built for men's football, and he's a young kid as well. So when you're comparing him, I think the Tottenham fans are really overhyping Moore. But I do agree. I think he should start because Son looks completely dead, right? He just doesn't look the same player this season. But yeah, I think I'd go with the same team, to be honest. Exactly what John said.
Jose, time for the kids?
For me, yeah, bring them in. Get rid of the no marks that don't play and don't offer us continuity because they don't. I would play with the back four that John said. My midfield, two of the midfielders that John said I'd put in there. I'd start Gray in there, put Berghvall in there. I'd actually throw Oluwaseyi in there.
So Gray in the midfield with Berghvall
and Oluwaseyi.
Oh wow! Okay,
I'd give Oluwaseyi a chance.
So who's the back? So who's the back four then? If Archie Gray's not the back four, who's the back four?
Porro, Danso, Davis, Spence, and then the top three. I would start with Micky Moore left, Ajayi right, and Tell down the middle.
Fucking hell.
Let's just go. I said it last night on Adrian's show.
I'd be happy to see that.
We've got nothing to lose. The youngsters that come into play, right? And I understand what Danny said about Micky Moore. I understand all this. But the youngsters, when they come on and when they get given an opportunity, they provide oomph. They provide zest. They want to play for the badge. They're playing for their career. Their careers are just starting out. They want to make themselves. They want to make something themselves. And I think they wear the badge with more pride than some of the older gets we've got in the team. And for me, I mean, against Villa tomorrow, I think Villa may rotate their side tomorrow a bit. They've got players that they may bring in, the new signings, who've not played together, so they wouldn't know the playing patterns and stuff like that. And I just think, what have we got to lose? Are we just going to put the same side that we did against Liverpool and have just another be talking tomorrow about another abject performance? Look, I want to win. But if we go down losing, I want to go down fighting if we're going to lose. Yeah. I don't want an abject performance like I saw against Liverpool because that was, seriously, we've had some lows this season, but that was a fucking big time low.
You know what?
Jose.
I'm going to come to you right now, just quickly, just to answer to Jose's question there. What have we got to lose? We've got nothing to lose. As fans, we've got nothing to lose. But Ange has got his job to lose. And to Jose's question, I'll let you come in, Bang, with whatever you were going to say and then also give your team selection, but the reality is, right, does Ange might know that his job might be on the line if he does lose tomorrow, and therefore does he go, fuck it, I was going to go with the youth and hopefully they're going to put out a better performance than what the dickheads put out the other day? But at the same time, if you do that and it's too much for them, because Villa Park is not Anfield and Villa's not Liverpool, but it's still a very, very, very tough place to go and play football. So does Ange have any of the stones to sit there and go, my job's on the line, but fuck it, I'm going to go youth to the level that Jose's just described, like all the youth basically.
There are 7 people on the panel, right? Who thinks that Ange's going to be here till the end of the season? Because then that debunks. Okay, so that debunks who he plays tomorrow, who doesn't play tomorrow. He's going to be here till the end of the season. So
we think that, but we don't know that, do we?
Well, I've got a feeling Danny as well. I'm with Dan. I've got a feeling as well that he's here till the end of the season, minimum.
Do you know what? Do you know why?
Danny said he could be beyond as well.
Do you know why? Because
Danny, just one second, mate. We'll come back round to you, mate. I just want to make sure that. Sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted Blaine. Sorry, mate. Just let Blaine come in. And
just one thing, Sean. Just one thing. Is Rashford cup tied tomorrow?
Yeah.
No, he didn't play. Did he against Arsenal?
Oh,
right. That means Rashford will come and have a field day against us tomorrow.
No, he won't.
Rashford's too bob, mate. He's too bob.
He's Brennan Johnson on steroids, mate.
He's coming. He's happy to play tomorrow night, but he's looking for the first nightclub to hit tomorrow evening.
Yeah, once he scores a hat
Street in Birmingham, going to be popping off with Rashford and his boys.
He's going to score a hat trick now, isn't he?
Wearing the same sort of getup that you've got on, Danny. Blaine, where were you going to go, mate, with this take? Sorry, Blaine.
So I agree with John. I think I'd start Austin tomorrow. The lad needs minutes. He's proven he's more than capable for it, so get him in there. Same back four as Jose, so Spence, Davies, Danso, Porro. I want to see Gray, Berghvall, and Kulu in the 10. I think, I'm sorry, but playing Kulu on the right wing is not effective. That ain't his position.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the legs. He doesn't have the crossing ability. He always likes to cut in. It doesn't work, right? And then up top, I'm just going to play Son. Whether we like it, whether we don't like it, he's going to start with him. So Sonny, Tell, and Moore would be my front three.
Do you think he'll play Sonny up top?
No, I think he'll probably blend between Tell and Sonny, swapping.
Yeah, maybe
have that fluid front three.
I think Tell will start up front because he came in because I think what part of the agreement was that we were going to give him some chances as a striker because that's what he wanted, right? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to see Sonny in the 9. Fuck that.
No,
He's absolutely fucking ridiculous. Adrian, you're starting 11 for tomorrow, mate?
Yeah, I'm not going Jose's way. I mean, Jose, get some therapy, mate. All right, just get some therapy. You'll be fine. There's some good people out there that can help you, right?
Isn't that why we're here?
Adrian, you keep talking like you have for the last 20 years, mate.
Yeah, I'm going Kinsky in goal because he can kick. The same back four most people have picked. In midfield, I'm going Gray, Berghvall, and Bentancur. And then up front, unfortunately, I'm playing Kulu on the right, Sonny on the left, and Tell through the middle. I don't think Ange is going to risk too many youngsters in this game. I just don't think he'll risk it. Just in case his job is online, it will be in the back of his mind anyway. So, and I think we'll win 2-1.
No, there you go.
And the reason I say that, if you're betting people just for fun, I had a fiver because we're at Villa. Obviously, the odds would be better. It got 16-1, just a fiver. And the only reason I had that fiver, and don't laugh, because I dreamt that we won 2-1 at Villa. I actually dreamt it. You know what they say about the lottery numbers? So tomorrow, when we're doing our show, everyone can come on and laugh at me because if we lose or whatever, like. But I thought I'll have the fiver. Fuck it. So
a fiver on 2-1 Tottenham gets you 16-1, does it?
Yeah, because we're away, aren't we? No one fancies.
Yeah. So on that, Adrian, right? Villa are unbeaten at home, 11 games. But we've won there 9 times out of the last 10.
Yeah, we won 4-0 last year. Remember when Sarr put the cross across for Maddison to get in between the defenders and smash the first one in? Yeah.
Yeah, Villa fans are not looking.
We've won 9 at the last 10 times.
Yeah, we've won at Villa. We've got a really, really great record at Villa.
Let's be fair. We wouldn't be surprised.
We've been shit at home against them, believe it or not.
I'd say we'd probably lose.
Sean's thinking about this 16-1 because he likes.
I was just drifting off going. I'm the shenanigans they are.
It was on Sky Bet, by the way.
I think I've still got a couple hundred quid in an old Bet365 account. I might have to dig out my old password.
Do you want another stat? They concede on average 1.2 at home and score 2. So
they do or we do?
Okay. They do.
So we're saying 2-2 then?
No, Desmond. Yeah.
Is it penalties straight after? If it's
extra time first. Extra time. Ruzilla, my man with the giant mug.
You'll get good odds on us because we're away.
What's your team? What's your team for tomorrow, buddy?
To be honest with you, I'm probably about the same as Adrian. I don't really see him risking too much because I think this is really an opportunity for him to kind of save his job. And I think he'll look for as fast a start as possible, try and get a couple up him, and then maybe blend in a couple of kids towards the end. But I think he's going to start as strong as he can, to be honest with you. And just to blame
United, isn't it?
Week Sunday. So yeah, I think because of that, I think he can afford to go as strong as possible, knowing that he can kind of, rest a couple people.
So you're saying Sonny starts?
I think he might. I think he's going to go. I think he'll go Sonny left. I think he'll go Sonny left, Tell up front, and Kulusevski on the right.
Yeah,
I think you can maybe expect. I would like to see more and Tell from the start, because I just think they're unknown commodities to a certain extent, and they've probably got more pace to burn than Kulusevski and Son combined.
Yeah.
But I just don't think it's going to quite happen, because if you got Scarlet Cup tied, and if you put Tell on one of the wings, then you've got to go false 9 with Kulu, because you don't have any other forwards, because Richalison, Solanke, or otherwise you've got to bring Son into the 9, which none of us want to see, and you've got to put more out. So I think, I think he'll go as strong as he can, and then look to make some changes at half time, and then go strong again.
Well, he should go strong anyway, shouldn't he? Because they've got a week's rest after this game.
Right. That's it. But I mean, also, I say strong. Right. I mean, I've been having a go at people that turn around and say, I just want a strong 90 minutes out of this team. And they just, they don't have 90 minutes in them. So they've just got to, kind of be a bit diligent on that, regard. But yeah, I think he'll go as strong as he can. Look to get a couple early.
I think he's going to go. I'd like to see Austin in goal, and I'd like to see a midfield of Berghvall, Gray, and Bentancur, and I'd like to see Tell up front, Son on the left, more on the right. I'm trying to think who else have we got who's available. But I don't think he's going to do that. I think he'll go Kinsky in goal. I think the back four that John said. I think he'll do. I think Sarr starts tomorrow. Unfortunately, I don't want him to start, but I think he will start him.
He better not. He better fucking not.
I hope not, Sean. But
this is the catalyst for so much transition. I've seen more transition.
I know.
Fucking checking fraudulent account.
I know. I think he's going to go Sarr, Bentancur, and he's going to go Berghvall. Right, that's what I think he'll do. Right, or I'd rather see. Berghvall, Gray, and Kulu in the midfield. That's it, Kulu. But I don't think he's going to do that. He's going to do what he usually does. It'll probably be. It'll go Son, Tell up front, Kulu on the right, and I think Sarr plays. I think Berghvall plays, and probably Bentancur.
All right, guys, we're going with 2 hours, 22 minutes, the perfect time to round off. I'm going to give you all the chance to give us your predictions. I want to say massive thank you to everyone for coming on. Everyone who's been in the chat. It's been about 350 people here for the most part. Really appreciate everyone. Smash the like button, please, if you get the chance. Hit the subscribe. And Drew, I'll start with you. We'll go around the houses. Prediction, and if you have a channel or a social or Twitter handle or anything like that, then let everyone know where people can find you. Drew, are we making it through to the 5th round draw?
Yes.
I said 1-1 last night. I said 1-1 and then 3-1 after extra time. But then I changed it to 3-1 in 90 minutes because I got all delusional. So I'm going 3-1 in 90 minutes.
And have you got a Twitter or anything, mate?
No. You can just find me on the Irish Hotspur. You can find me on Tottenham Till I Die, and you can find me on Spurs Talk Show.
Love it, mate. Love it. Thank you so much, man. I love you, the pieces.
Thanks, bro. You too.
And Spurs Die Hard as well.
That's that one. Yeah, Spurs Die Hard. Yeah, that one.
AJ, you said 2-1. You want to plug?
That's the final. That's the final. I dreamt but I couldn't see the other team. I dreamt the final. We won the FA Cup 2-1. Might be complete and utter BS, but I'm not making it up or nothing like that. So tomorrow, I haven't had a bet. I'm going to have a bet on the win, probably a fiver tomorrow, but I might go 3-1, something like that.
Spurs diehards TTID. Apparently, we're not going to talk. We're not going to drop the reason why just yet. But if you are a frequenter of Spurs diehards TTID, make sure you're doing that Monday, the 17th of February. Apparently, it's going to be a good show. 2-1 says Adrian. Blaine, score prediction, and if you've got a social media, mate, let everyone know where to find you.
I want some of what Adrian's having at night, though, if he's dreaming of us lifting the FA Cup. Honestly, that's brilliant. I'm going to go for a Cup Classic 3-2 win.
Ooh.
I think there's goals in it. I think it's going to be quite an open game as well. Just with the way that Emery sets up, the way we're going to set up, yeah, could be a good one.
They got injuries, Blaine, and they. Ollie Watkins might be missing. Matty Cash, Tyrone Mings. There's a couple of others I can't remember. I think they got 5 injuries.
Sold John Duran.
Sold him.
£70 million. If you want to check out a video, by the way, guys, Sean Butler TV dropped the video earlier on today about Man City suing the Premier League once again for the third-party transaction relationship. And in that, I talk a little bit about Aston Villa and exactly what I think is going on over there. And I think that there is a hell of a lot of... We'll scratch your back now if you scratch our back a little bit later on, because it's absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous what's going on in that Premier League cabal that is the people that are taking over the top 4 or 5.
Sean, bring up Angela Tyro's post 803. 803.
just while he's bringing that up, yeah, does he mean after extra time? Really? Yeah, I don't have a YouTube channel, but you can find me on Twitter. X names in the chat. So thanks very much, everyone, for listening to my.
Blaine, you go. Yeah, Blaine Dev, 89. Well done, Blaine. Appreciate you, mate. Great return to the show. Obviously, Drew and Adrian as well. Fantastic efforts from all of you guys. Sorry, I said at the start, I won't talk too much. And then, Sean. Sean.
And then
Eltel, Jose, what the hell is your prediction, my man? What's your scoreline? And where can people find you?
Right, disclaimer for earlier. I thought it was who would I pick, not who would Ange pick. So my youngsters is who would I pick.
Fair enough.
Tomorrow's game, I'm just holding. My hope is being held on to the fact that we've got an excellent record at Villa. Nothing more and nothing less. I want a performance tomorrow, and I never back against my mob, so I'm gonna go for a 1-2 victory.
Love that, mate.
And I can be found at El Tel Coquerel, as people might know. People have been calling me Tell and Jose all night.
I feel like I'm a little bit like I've got like a split personality going on. Who am I talking to? I was speaking to Jose. Jose, maybe you can have like Mr. Box Office, when sometimes it's Alex THFC. Other times when he comes on with a rant, it's Box Office time, baby.
Yeah.
You can be Jose or you can be El Tel for me.
But thank you very much, Sean, for having me. And it's been a pleasure sharing the screen with Drew, Adrian, Blaine, John, and Danny.
Yeah, love
Thank you, appreciate you, mate.
I'll be doing the panel shows a lot more regularly. Like I say, shenanigans are still afoot. I'm still working with corrupt devices, and to those people that are doing this to me, but we are going to be doing a lot more in the words of panels. So I've got to get this stuff out there.
Show tomorrow, guys, if you're interested. 9 o'clock, because the kickoffs are 5 and it's weird, so the game won't finish.
It's early one, yeah. Well, it's early-ish, but late for Sundays. John, prediction, and where can people find you, my man?
After Thursday, I'm so low. I just don't think we're going to win. I'm going to go a 2-2 draw, and we'll probably lose on penalties because Spurs love to draw it out and make it painful. I can't see Kinsky saving any penalties. He doesn't look like that sort of keeper to me, does he?
Yeah,
and I'm with Jose.
Because see Brandon Austin just delicately flicking one around the post.
Yeah, Brandon Austin, if he gets picked, but he won't.
Don't worry.
It's more what I think.
Maybe this could be the turning point for Ange Postecoglou if he leaves Kinsky on the pitch for 89 minutes, and at some point in the extra time, there's an absolute worldie of a substitution where Brandon Austin comes on in the 118th minute and then puts in 3 saves, 3 out of 3, and we go through 3-1 on pens. That'd be fantastic. Because we're not going to score 5. We never do.
Guys,
and maybe Tell will score his first goal for Spurs. Let's hope for that.
Where can people find you, mate?
You can find me at the Lads. It's Tottenham YouTube channel, which was formerly the Cheese Room, an occasional guest on the Cheese Room audio pod, because there was the same branding, but we were 2 different shows, so we sort of split them up basically. So yeah, I'm an occasional guest on the Cheese Room audio pod with Franco, and then one of the hosts on the Lads. It's Tottenham with Caller and HG and everyone else. Sensational, mate. Sensational. Love it. Thanks so much for coming on, John. Great to see you, mate. I hope the wife is nicely having a cheeky massage or something to get those. This sounds really improper. I shouldn't have said that. Yeah, who's doing that?
While you're ahead, don't dig any deeper, right?
Sorry, mate. I don't know who your wife is. I hope she's recovering. What I meant was I hope she's recovering and she's not too exhausted from doing an absolute monster marathon earlier. What do they call it? Ultra marathons or something? Is it?
And yeah, anything over 27 miles is an ultra. So technically, my first marathon that I did last week was an ultra because it was almost 28. But yeah,
is that because you went the wrong way?
3 weeks.
You missed the turning. You should have gone right when you went left instead. Yeah, you had to do an extra mile to get back on course.
I did go a little bit longer, but no, it was almost 28 miles because they couldn't put the finish by Brighton Pier. They had to put an extra mile on it.
Wow. Wow, that's outrageous. It's the last thing you want. I've done 25 miles, not long to go. Actually, well, just because of topography restrictions, you've actually got an extra 600 yards.
It was really sunny as well, so everyone was on Hove and Brighton Pier on the prom. So I was weaving while absolutely knackered around all these people and their dogs and everything. So yeah,
that'll be like Christian Romero when he's lifting the cup in May. He's got a weave through as the Tottenham fans explore the pitch for the first time. That's what we're hoping for. Something similar to that, right? It's going to happen. Not according to John's prediction. Yeah, listen, if Tottenham win a trophy at Wembley in May, you better believe I am charging that pitch when we win.
No, is Romero going to be on the pitch?
No, Romero will be on the pitch. He'll be injured. He'll be injured.
Going to play for us again?
No, he's got an Argentina warm-up game for the Club Cup or whatever it is about 2 days later, so he'll be conveniently absent without cause. I'm not a massive fan of Romero.
Richalison will be fit for the World Cup qualifiers in March.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. It's the World Cup qualifiers then, so he'll be fit for that, I should think.
100%. Thank you, John. Thank you, boys. Great to have you all back on. Danny, last man up. Where are we? What's the prediction going to be, buddy? And where can people find you?
Well, my head's saying 4-2 Villa. I've just got this bad feeling that we're going to have another bad performance. My heart is saying 3-2 Spurs. So I'll go with my heart prediction because I want to go for Spurs, but I've just got a bad feeling about tomorrow. I know the only thing that actually changed me to thinking we could win is what Blaine was saying about the stats about we won 9 in 10 at Villa, which is didn't realize.
The reason why we're always going to lose against Liverpool is because we haven't beaten them there in 14 years. The reason why we're going to smash Villa is because we always win at Villa.
Yeah, we always win it's not just that, Sean. It's typical Tottenham thing to go and get smashed like against Liverpool, and then everyone's expecting to get smashed, and then we go and beat them. It's like that is literally.
That's why Tottenham fans should always reserve the right to be a flip-flop, because you always know that following an absolutely abject performance and a horrendously embarrassing defeat, you're just around the corner from something that surprises you to the upside. It's going to happen tomorrow. I'm going for 3-2 Tottenham. Yeah. I subscribe to the idea that it's goals. And I think you can find me at Spurs Talk Show, and you can find me and Johnny at Football Inc. And you can find financial insight, if you're interested in that shit, over on Sean Butler TV. If not, well, whatever. No, I do care. Please subscribe. Danny, where can people find you, mate? You didn't say. Where can people find you?
Oh yeah, no, it's anywhere at the moment. To be honest, whoever will have me to talk Spurs. To be honest, so yeah, whenever I've got some time, I'll come on. I'm happy for that.
Love it, mate. Love it. All right, guys. Thank you all ever so much for coming on. Really appreciate the panel. Let everyone know if you enjoyed the chat.
Thanks for having me, Sean.
The chat, people. The chat comes tomorrow. The chat comes tomorrow when we go and get torn apart again. Love you all. Like, subscribe, and comment. Thank you. Also, I'm so sorry, Dan Green. I didn't even see this. You become a new YouTube member. That's really bad of me for not noticing. Thank you very much for the support. Really appreciate it. And I hope the channel is here to reward you with that stuff. But hopefully I will be. Guys, Shenanigans can do that. And Tottenham can do that. And we're going to go through 5th round. The draw is on our way. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. See you later. And we'll see you on the next one. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs. Bye-bye.